parts of the country that are just awaiting to see such kind of places reopen because of, again, of the businesses. Remember that these are some of the things or areas that had been greatly affected by this pandemic, which is the COVID-19 pandemic. But again, still on matters COVID-19, the health system is still ill-prepared to tackle the virus. Remember that you're still continuing to record high numbers as we are closely inching the 8,000 mark, and even at that, it's still, you know, really surprising to see how health systems are still ill-prepared to tackle this virus, where the Kenya health system might collapse under the weight of COVID pandemic and other illnesses that still ravage citizens. So in the past week, there have been several reports about Kenyan hospitals buckling under the weight of coronavirus of the coronavirus pandemic, albeit silently, and with this information being contradicted at every corner, many are left wondering about the real state of affairs. Remember that also time and again we have had several health workers in different parts of the country, in different counties, complaining of issues such as lack of payment, lack of salaries, lack of being given allowances, some even complaining of not having adequate and enough tools. So you may just wonder, in this time when we are closely inching the 8,000 mark, where is the missing link to make our health system to still be ill-prepared to tackle the COVID-19?
Now, still keeping up with the COVID-19 updates is that bad manners is to blame for sharp rise in new cases. Yeah, house parties still being held while matatus and borders revert to bad old ways of operating. Are you culpable? Are you one of those people who are still throwing parties here and there and riding double? Or rather riding double on borders. These are some of the issues that Health Chief Administrative Secretary Rashid Aman raised concern about, and say that they are going in a long way to just increasing the number of COVID cases right now. Still keeping up with COVID, and as Kenyans expect an ease of the lockdown measures, is that for President Kenyatta, the burden of being the country's heads of state is now weighing on him. Now, do you kill the economy or your people? Now, as Kenyans await that decision, there's a particular article there that has highlighted what has been done in other different countries across the world, and from Beijing in China to Florida in the United States, Melbourne in Australia to Catalonia in Spain, a second wave of reinfection is forcing governments to tighten restrictions, even as Kenya mulls on a better evil, whether to open or recruit or just remain closed. That is, different countries already having a second wave of reinfection. Is this a chance that we are willing to take? That question is going to be aptly answered by the heads of state in just in a few hours' time, and we'll be there to keep you abreast on that particular issue. Now, within the African continent is that Rwanda is set to resume flights, and which has introduced some strict protocols for those returning to work after lifting some of its lockdown measures announced on Saturday. It would be reopening its airspace for commercial flights in the country in August, and now passengers arriving into the country or those on transit will be required to show proof of a COVID-19 PRC negative test, which must have been taken within 72 hours of arrival in Rwanda. That is what is happening in that larger East African, area country. Now, back home, the issue of reopening does not leave out the issue of learning institutions. Now, in one development here is that why teacher training colleges are likely to reopen in September. Now, as government is negotiating, or rather seeing how to relax or tighten the COVID-19 containment measures, teacher training colleges stand a better chance of reopening in September, as uncertainty surrounds the fate of primary and secondary schools. Now, Professor George Magoha, who is the CS of Education, said even though colleges are not included in the government plan to provide masks to learners, everybody will be expected to wear them at all times. Now, he also ruled that government funding on bailout of private colleges which have borne the brunt of the COVID-19 pandemic as they failed to admit students in May due to closure. Now, it is expected that if learning resumes, examinations will be administered in March and April next year. And the government has allocated the education sector 7.4 billion shillings in the economic stimulus. Now, just looking at the COVID-19 county check as prepared by reporter Beatrice Gatonye, just highlights on what the education ministry is just pondering or rather dealing with in light of COVID-19. And the Education Cabinet Secretary there, George Magoha, says that the government has put in place elaborate measures to guarantee safety of learners in the country's higher institutions ahead of possible reopening in September. This is all contained in our COVID-19 county check report as prepared by reporter Beatrice Gatonye Ngetich.
It is a delicate balancing act for the government as it seeks to control the spread of COVID-19 disease and recommence the school calendar that was suspended following its outbreak in the country. And amid uncertainty over the exact date schools will reopen, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says tertiary institutions will have to satisfy strict guidelines, including mandatory COVID-19 tests for their staff before reopening. Magoha saying ensuring that schools adhere to the social distancing guideline remains the biggest challenge yet as the government mulls a reopening of schools.
What about the boarding situation? Nobody has told me whether they have double decks in these schools or not. But it must be the same. If you have double decks and there are no children, you must make sure that one bed is 1.5 meters away from the other one. If you can't, the student has to stay alone inside. It's not a question of saying, oh, this is now 1 meter, we can manage.
These as Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua decried the high number of Kenyans losing jobs as a result of the coronavirus pandemic.
But the problem is not coronavirus. The problem is not COVID-19. This is what is happening in Kenya. The suffering is not happening in Singapore. Is not happening to the same degree in the United States or in European nations or even in South Africa. It is happening here because we are a poor economy, because we have not really concentrated our energy in ensuring people have money in their pockets. We are all excited about politics.
Elsewhere, Mira farmers and traders from Mira growing region of Meru County have decried restriction of movement in Manyara County that has hampered movement of the product to neighboring Somalia.
Lakini kutoka siku corona ilikuja mpaka ikasimamishwa, sisi hatujawahi uza kilo moja ya miraa kutoka hiyo siku ilifungwa. Kwa hivyo ningeliomba rais wetu Uhuru Kenyatta atuhurumie, aone sisi ni wakulima, sisi ni wananchi na ni wanawake, ni wanawake. Tumetaabika, hatuna kitu ya kutumia kwa watoto wetu, hatuna kitu ya kutumia kwa nyumba.
And Garissa County COVID-19 preparedness received a shot in the arm following a partnership deal with UNICEF. County Director of Health Abdullahi Dawood says the deal will see the distribution of washing equipment in all health facilities and other high concentration areas like markets in Garissa sub-county. Dawood said the health department had traced and put under quarantine contacts of those who had tested positive.
I know there are many people who are a bit relaxed because it's as if they are becoming familiar with the virus. This virus is never familiar with anybody. It is killing quite a number of people. We know our economy has been affected, but please, we are not yet out of the hook. So we are requesting our communities to adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines.
Beatrice Gatonye Ngetich, Channel 1 News.
Now delving into matters of politics. Captured by the Star on the front page is that defiant Ruto forges Plan B, takes on Uhuru. Now, after months of silence, a DP speaks out saying his allies are being politically annihilated. Now, at the same time, that particular head has also found its way on the Daily Nation, is that Ruto, a man pushed to the wall. Linking to that particular header there is that over the weekend, in an event close to the press, Deputy President William Ruto appealed to some Rift Valley church leaders at his Sugoi home in Uasin Gishu County to pray for his lieutenants, saying they are suffering. Their suffering will only be short-lived. Now that has been captured on page 7 of the Daily Nation. But now if we can just look on that big matters politics captured by the Star, it says that Deputy President Ruto is quietly shopping for an alternative 2022 political vehicle as he signals a ruthless battle against his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta. For the first time after months of hitters, the DP on Saturday claimed his allies are being politically annihilated in a jibe that appeared to be clearly directed at Uhuru. There says is that Uhuru has managed to seize control of Jubilee after kicking out the DP's confidence from key leadership positions. The onslaught has diminished Ruto's prospects of getting the Jubilee ticket, and there are indications that Uhuru is determined to obliterate him. Is it? Now, some of Ruto's allies under siege is Mwangi Kiorunjuri, the former Agriculture Cabinet Secretary. Remember, the last 2 weeks or so, he came up, or rather he unveiled his new party there. There's Aisha Jumwa, Malindi Member of Parliament, Rigathi Gachagua, Mathura Member of Parliament, who is facing issues of graft, or rather is being investigated, his source of wealth. We have John Waluhe, Sirisia Member of Parliament, who is stirring at some form of incarceration over a graft issue in as far as maize kernel is concerned. We have Rashid Echesa, who is the former Sports Cabinet Secretary. Remember what happened to him a little bit earlier. And we have former Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Retich. Those are some of Ruto's allies under siege. All those stories, you remember, you can get more details in regard to that. As captured differently on the Daily Nation is that Ruto terms Uhuru's purge on allies as a political witch hunt. Now, Ruto allies have ruled out the possibility of them surrendering to the pressure coming from the frosty relationship between President Uhuru Kenyatta and them. While it appears that there are efforts to force DP Ruto out of Jubilee, his supporters say they will not leave. Though they have received invitations from newly launched, service party of Mwangi Kiorunjuri. Belgut MP Nelson Koch says they can only leave the party if it is being disbanded, since they have equal stake with President Kenyatta's side. He also spoke of a possibility of the DP's camp forming coalition with TSP. What do you have on your end in regard to matters politics, Doreen?
Well, and still keeping up with leaders whom their wealth is really being questioned by the state. Still on matters politics, there's a similar story, but coming to Nairobi County. Graft War Agency queries city governor's 500 million deposit, where by any measure, no one can doubt that the Nairobi governor, that is Mike Sonko, is a generous politician who gives anyone and everyone he comes across. This benevolence has even caught the eye of those who are of sleuths who are giving him sleepless nights after going for his account on an allegation that he has been illegally siphoning money from Nairobi County government, a claim which he himself denies. That is the Nairobi governor, Mike Sonko, there. But now investigators say in court documents that from his donations, which the public knows, he is a man of means who does not need money in 10 accounts that are now at the heart of the classic war with Asset Recovery Agency. We obviously know the Nairobi governor due to his deeds of giving, but now it looks like the state is questioning where he gets his money, in as much as, yes, he really comes through in assisting citizens and assisting people, but where exactly does his money come from? But still on matters anti-graft and matters politics, where the agency summons governor over jobs, and the anti-graft agency has someone, that is the Lamu Governor Fahim Twaha, over claims of irregular appointments made at the county level. Twaha is supposed to appear before the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission officers at the Integrity Center, that is today, to face investigators handling the case. Now, the commission invited the governor through a letter dated June 29th, addressing addressed to him, revealing they are investigating allegations of irregularities in appointment of about 13 officials to the county. That is the politics of that specific county happening there. But still again on matters politics, coming to the ODM politics and matters slightly BBI, where the ODM digs in amid Jubilee implosion, and the opposition leader Raila Odinga's troops stood their ground. This is in protecting the Building Bridges Initiative, or if you may, the BBI, and in Parliament as the implosion in Jubilee over the sharing of committee slots escalated. This is again in regards to matters BBI. So a day after Jubilee Vice Chairman David Murathe told them off for demanding too much, the legislators led by National Assembly Minority Leader John Badi said ODM must safeguard the BBI from his enemies. So the Jubilee chairman David Murathe is saying that they are demanding too much. That is the ODM demanding too much. But the minority leader saying that, you know, they need to safeguard their territories and safeguard the BBI. But away from as that, but still on matters politics, now coming to the Luhya Nation and the Luhya politics, battle for control of Luhya Nation hots up. That is in the western part of the country, where a war of words has erupted among members of two factions in Western Kenya as the battle for the region's soul heats up. So on one side is Kakamega Governor, that is Wycliffe Oparanya, and Devolution CS, that is Eugene Wamalwa, while on the other side is a group led by Amani National Congress, or the ANC leader, that is Musalia Mudavadi, and Ford Kenya boss, that is Moses Wetangula. Now, on Saturday, which was just 2 days ago, the two groups held parallel meetings, that is in Kitale, Trans Nzoia County, where Mudavadi and Wetangula led Jubilee allied MPs from Western region to a meeting at the home of Kiminini MP Chris Wamalwa, while the other faction, led by Oparanya and CS Wamalwa, they held theirs, attended by all governors at Kitale National Polytechnic. So it just still continues to show the battle in the Luhya Nation with the shift, but with the shift, and this is in the two camps, one from the Jubilee allies and the other one from the ODM party. That is what is happening in the western part of the country, that is in Luhya.
Now, still keeping up with politics and just coming, or rather tying it up with what is happening within the Luhya Nation, is that we will not work with you, Musalia and Wetangula tell Uhuru's Jubilee. Opposition politicians accuse the ruling party of wrecking the economy. Now, speaking the home of Nambale MP John Bunyasi in Busia County, the two leaders yesterday vowed to mobilize the western region into a voting bloc behind a Luhya presidential candidate in 2022. Remember, the Luhya Nation has always been divided and has never ever fronted a presidential candidate, you know, with such clout. They always bend over backwards for any other leader. Will this time in 2022 be different? That's a very bold statement there. We will not work with you, Musalia and Wetangula tell Uhuru's Jubilee. Well, leading up to the last elections, we had an issue, remember, and I'll take you back to what was happening in the political scene, where it was Musalia Mudavadi allegedly met with President Uhuru Kenyatta then, who was running for president, and expecting to make a deal that never came to fruition. Remember, the now president is saying that indeed it was about, it was a demon, or rather it was a point of temporary insanity. Did Musalia forget all that? Those are questions that are mulling, or rather going through my mind when I read this particular header there. We will not work with you, Musalia. We will not work with you, Musalia and Wetangula tell Uhuru's Jubilee. But well, they still make such, firm, or rather a stand decision. I'd want to draw your attention to this morning's caricature captured on the Star this morning. Just look at it there. This caricature, yeah? Just maybe you can zoom into that. Anyone who has been following up politics will remember the Madimoni kind statement that came up during elections in the past. Once beaten, twice shy. Are we? Are we really shy? Yes, that's the caricature I want you to look at as we are talking matters politics in regard to uniting the Luya nation ahead of 2022. Is it something that can be done? How about to get a roundup of what is happening in the political scene as prepared by our reporter Kevin Washira.
It has been turbulent times for ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi and Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula in their quest to consolidate their support with national political events appearing to have isolated them. And amid upheavals within their political parties, the two leaders would spend their weekend in their Western Kenya stronghold as they seek to find a foothold. After meeting political and local leaders from Trans Nzoia County on Saturday, the two leaders would on Sunday head to Busia County, holding a meeting with the local leadership. The agenda being to mobilize the Western Kenya vote bloc behind one of their own ahead of 2022 elections.
We have chosen to walk gallantly into the future and to 2022 as one solid bloc from Western Kenya. We will not be looking back. Let those who are someone else's project in the region and their master know that there is only one direction for us. There is no reverse gear, no surrender, no looking back.
We are tired. We have carried people on our shoulders for too long. Yes. Tumechoka. 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 Tumechoka.
Those attending the meeting observing that Western Kenya bloc has for long been used to endorse other politicians, and it was time to rally behind the leadership of one of their own.
You are leading us by telling us to stand together. You are leading us by telling us to work together. You are leading us by telling us to speak together. And you are leading us by showing us the direction to State House. Hiyo ndio jukumu yetu sisi zote. Leaders. Because hakuna kiongozi mwenye anaweza kujua kila kitu.
Weta, I want to assure you, you will never walk alone. The people of Busia, you will never walk alone. The people of Western Kenya, you will never walk alone. The people of Kenya, you will never walk alone. And for you, I also say, don't allow me to walk alone.
The political players concluding by committing to reach out to other regions as they move to consolidate their odds ahead of 2022 general elections. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Well, that story is what takes us to our to the other part, still keeping up with the headlines, but now coming to the courts and justice, where a court ruling puts fate of Mau Water Tower on the balance, and behind the serenity of the 57,000 hectares Eastern Mau Forest Complex lie a delicate balance between a court ruling and a conservation of the ecosystem. So there's a balance between the courts and the people living and people staying there. Now, the lush green complex that comprises Mario Shoni, Kiptunga, Baraget, Logaman, Likia, as well as different other places in the same place. So that is what is happening on that specific place that is in the Mau. So that court ruling puts fate of Mau Water Tower on the balance. Which way should people continue to stay in that specific place? Should they move out and at least leave that area for the sake of Water Tower? That is what is happening in that area.
About issues of justice, there's a story that has made it to the headlines this morning. How Urithi members paid for air, paying for air investments. Now, thousands chasing the dream of owning a home, Urithi Cooperative's deal was irresistible until they lost their cash. Details there. Maybe just get an overview of that particular story as captured by the Daily Nation. There, when the deal is too good, how Urithi members paid millions for air. The housing outfit offered them a rent and homes in their deals they could not resist. Quoted there are three members One is Benia Shapaya. I don't even know where the property I bought is. It seems I paid money for a project that does not exist. While Simon Gadai says we're still waiting for our titles. They have just been telling us to wait, and the whole project seems to be a sham. That is Simon Gadai. While Miss Susan Nyaga, I was under a lot of stress having lost my husband, but they kept pushing for me to complete my payments. Now, the losses ran into billions of shillings, Urithi having run out of lies to feed investors. Now, some have waited for more than 8 years and are coming to terms with the fact they may have lost their investment. Now, Urithi chairman Samuel Maina, in the most recent status update dated June 2nd, said the cooperative had profiled every project to give clear timelines and deliverables. Over 30 land projects are in good progress, and title deeds shall be delivered in a few months. We have set up a robust communication desk to contact each of the members based on their obligations. That is what Samuel Maina, who is, Urithi chairman, has to say in regard to those particular allegations. Now, clients are now lining up at the Directorate of Criminal Investigation to lodge complaints, and that is an exclusive story that has been captured by a Daily Nation this morning. So if you're thinking about investing, well, you need to just learn, what products are out there and do some due diligence so that you do not end up, losing your investment. Further on is that Uchumi has been given 6 months to pay 4.7 billion shillings. Now, creditors will take a 70% loss on amounts owed to them according to a deal allowed by courts. Can get more details in regard to that. Remember, the retail sector is quite changing as we speak, because Chop is also on its way out, and at the same time, the Tuskys retail supermarket is also facing, wrangles here and there. Will they survive? If you want to focus on this story about Uchumi, then you can find your copy. Now, still keeping up with matters of justice is that the DCI has summoned 6 over the death of 2 miners in Athi River. Now, that is captured on page 6. Remember, that story made headlines both on social media and mainstream media, where the bodies of, the 2 miners were found in a police station in, an abandoned car there. Now, the sleuths from the DCI Homicide Department on Friday made the move after they completed the processing of the River Police Station that had been secured as a crime scene after the bodies were discovered inside a car at the station on June 19th. The bodies of Alvina Mutheu, 3 years old, 9 months, and Henry Jackton, 4, were found in a Toyota Belter KCT 510X after disappearing outside their KMC estate on June 11th. Now, the sleuths said that a post-mortem will be done today by government pathologist Johansen Odor. That's a developing story that we'll be keeping tabs on as we focus on stories that tackle on issues of security, and seeking justice, and also on the courts. Now, taking you over to, the northern region of the country, is that a long-standing system of resolving conflicts among the Somali community is receiving disapproval, with its opponents blaming it for human rights abuses among communities living in northern Kenya. Now, the practice, commonly referred to as msala, is said to have been commercialized, with elders allegedly benefiting at the expense of victims. Now, civil society groups say the alternative dispute resolution mechanism has seen social ills, including defilement, such as punishment meted on perpetrators was not severe enough to deter such crimes. This is a report prepared by Nancy Okware. Wajir Elusive Justice.
Justice for rape and defilement victims in parts of Wajir and its environs has become elusive thanks to the Masla system of resolving disputes. As victims are forced to live with the hidden scars of their ordeal with no justice forthcoming, elders here appear to be reaping big. Cases that are supposed to be heard in court are being heard under acacia trees by elders under the Masla system, with priority given to compensation.
And it's a very just and beautiful justice system, if it's not commercialized. Lakini siku hizi dunia imekuwa mingi, watu wameanza kuingia town. Commercialization lazima itaingia ndani.
So it seems that a lot of injustices is currently going on, is being done in the name of maslaha.
Cases of defilement and rape in the region are said to be on the rise, with other families opting to go the Masla way for fear that reporting such matters to authorities would bring shame to the family. Wajir County Branch Maendeleo ya Wanawake Chair Rukia Abdullahi says the alternative dispute resolution mechanism has left vulnerable groups at a disadvantage.
Who benefits from the maslaha? It's the elders and the person who committed the crime. The girl down there has nothing. And then her life is also shattered. Because we live in a society that don't keep things secret. You know? They will just say, that is the lady who was raped the other day.
If a rape case happens or a girl is defiled, as long as it is an issue concerning women, you see all the men camp on one side.
Out of the proceeds from a case under the mechanism, 40% is said to go to the elders, with the rest being subdivided among the families of the victim, with women not allowed to question the process.
Familia mwanaume anakuambia sisi maneno tumemaliza, wanakuonyesha madharau. Wasai wanakuambia kuna makati mwanamke anatawala. Kwani sisi hatuna haki?
And with the recent defilement case involving an assistant chief, County Criminal Investigation Officer Henry Ndombe has distanced police officers from claims of abetting the practice of masla.
We are not going to allow issues to do with the masla to interfere with the way we do investigations. Let them do their masla, but as the law will take its course.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
And away from courts and justice, we now move to matters business and see what has been highlighted this morning on the dailies as it concerns business. Now, the global solar farms reap big as Kenyans turn to the sun, where Kenya has overtaken India to become the #1 market for solar systems. This is what a new report shows. The report is by the Renewable Energy Policy Network for the 21st Century, which is a global network of players in the renewable energy sector, and is a pointer that the high demand means the government's efforts to connect to Kenyans to the national electricity grid might not be yielding the desired effect. So now this kind of energy is, they use the systems to light up their homes as well as power electronic devices, including charging their phones and even power TV and entertainment units. So now this report just shows that Kenya has overtaken India, and now Kenya is now turning to the sun as a source of energy. Still on matters business, Food Authority backtracks on the tea rules after uproar, where the Agricultural and Food Authority is on the spotlight for moving to implement proposed regulations governing the tea industry even before the process of making the rules had been completed. That has been completed. That is what is happening at the Agriculture and Food Authority.
Keeping it light on the corporate scene is that Mitumba traders have now asked the state to lift a ban on goods importation. The association has said that its members are unable to restock and repay pending bills. At the same time, massive layoff at KQ as 182 pilots, over 400 cabin crews are sent packing. Remember, this comes at a time when the national carrier is facing a massive talent drain by Qatari Airways, which is keen to move its main operations to Rwanda. That is what is happening in the corporate scene. And just briefly to skim over matters sports, is that quite a question here, especially for Manchester United lovers, is how good. There's an article here on Sports International highlighted by the Star. And the question is, how good are United's 3 young forwards? That is Greenwood, Rashford and Martial, that have inspired the Devils' revival. You can catch more details on that. At the same time, Bayern Munich Robert Lewandowski passes a 50 goals mark as Bayern clinch the record of 20th German Cup. And if you like racing, well, the weekend was fun-filled as Valtteri Bottas survived reliability worries to win, and an incident sparked Australian Grand Prix as Lewis Hamilton took 4th after a penalty. That and so much more. You can find great details in regard to that, including matters sports, business, as also what is happening in the political scene on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. Earlier on, we had reminded you and asked you just to pick your mind about, you know, the expectations that you have in regard to the easing of the lockdown, and we've gotten a few feedback, and maybe I can just share some. On Twitter, at Willie Karani says, good morning to you too. Good morning. Glad that you're watching. Sent Pastor Paul Wafri area, and he's watching live. Good morning once again. Glad that you are on board. Now, there's also Choose a Few. Good Ngware, I'm enjoying my series. Kuna question. That is season 2 in Akuja. 30 days, the series. Quite a funny post there on Twitter. Now, Otieno Richard says, the government is duty bound to protect the citizens' lives, and improved gradual opening of the economy needs to be done as we cascade testing to county level to ring in large population for us to know how our counties are rating in regard to the virus. Thank you very much, Otieno Richard there. We remind you also to tell us where you're watching us from now. W_M at William Mwaburi on Twitter says, good morning, we are watching live from Wetamu. My expectations are we are willing to lift the lockdown and curfew. I depend on tourism, and the cessation of Nairobi and Mombasa has already affected the neighboring counties that they depend on each other mutually. Reopen the tourism so that I can resume work. Keep your feedback coming. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara and my colleagues Doreen Arange. What are your expectations ahead of the presidential address in regard to the easing of lockdown measures put in place to check the spread of COVID-19? We take a short break. When we return, we still focus on Good Morning Kenya. Do not go away.
Next on.
Ya muhimu kwanza ni kujua hali yako ya status ya HIV.
Everybody wanna feel like free. Forget your troubles and rock with me. We are looking for Zion. Every day protect where youth against them molestation. Feed them. Run your fingers down my spine. Elevation.
Na bila gloves haiwezi. Rieni kujua.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
Where is that traitor now? I want to kill him with my bare hands.
I have not done anything. Nothing.
Then why are you hiding here?
I am a shepherd.
Akramak?
He's the traitor we are looking for.
On the next episode.
What's wrong, Julio?
Do you actually believe that I would feel like coming home after that scene that you made yesterday?
Where were you? Hana was speaking to someone very suspicious. She said that she's not going to give us the money from the insurance.
This is the very last time you run away.
It's clear that you don't care about my feelings. Like I'm not your daughter.
We're making a mistake. This is not an impulse. This is my wish. Can't you see it's a necessity for me? What interest do you have in that maid keeping all of that money?
I am Ramon, the son of Juana.
El paraíso conocimos.
In love with Ramon.
A couple of minutes to 8 a.m. time for our fast traffic link segment. Our focus being on Kimathi Street, which is what I had told you earlier. And this is just how our map is looking like this early morning. But before I get to show you how traffic is doing, especially as you branch off from the Kenyatta Avenue roundabout using Kimathi Street, heading all the way to the city center, Let me show you the images of that. Now, this is how Kimathi Street is looking like. This is one of those roads inside the city center which has just been under reconstruction, and this is in a bid at least to ensure that pedestrians and motorcycles have their own designated lanes. I've told you time and again that the Kenya Urban Roads Authorities mentioned that any road that has been earmarked for reconstruction or any new road to be constructed, they will ensure that they have well designated lanes for both pedestrians as well as motorcycles, because of obvious reasons. First of all, to reduce on the traffic flow as you head over to the city center or even going about your businesses. And then second, at least to ensure that there's designated lanes, because then again, if everyone is using one specific road, then at times it becomes a bit detrimental, and this is due to things such as accidents. So this is why again also these lanes, or if you may, the non-motorized transport systems are being put in place. Now, a couple of weeks ago, this road had been closed, at least for the public a bit, to ensure that this is already put in place. And not just along Kimathi Street, we've also seen the non-motorized transport system along Kenyatta Avenue, just as you leave the roundabout. And not only for pedestrians, but also for motorcycles, that has been well designated. If you're someone that really, come to the city center, then you might really have witnessed that. But one of the problems that comes about with this non-motorized transport system, and also a question that a majority of Kenyans were asking, is that how long will it take until we start seeing such areas, being used by traders? And these are mostly the small-scale traders. If you're someone that uses the roads such as Thika Road or even Mombasa Road, you can bear witness that along this, the pedestrian walkways and even the motorcyclist lane, sometimes you could spot the small-scale traders there. So that makes you just wonder who exactly has. These lanes have been put for who exactly? Is it the traders? Is it the pedestrians? Is it the motorcycles? But ideally, this is a lane for this kind of persons. But sometimes the traders encroach in a bit and start putting up their business. But as of now, that is not happening along Kimathi Street. So clearly, that reconstruction process has been coming along well, at least just to ensure that both motorcyclists as well as pedestrians are being catered for. But let's look at how traffic is doing on that specific area. This is just after you leave the Kenyatta Avenue roundabout, and I'll be coming to that in a bit to just see how that roundabout is looking this morning in terms of traffic. But leaving that roundabout, coming all the way to Kimathi Street next, just actually after you leave the Wabera Street, one of the junctions there, this is again just after you leave the avenue roundabout, coming all the way to Kimathi Street. Doesn't look so bad, given it's the early morning hour, because oftentimes would expect to see more of the maroon color. But I just from what you're seeing and the images you're seeing this morning, you're really seeing like a cocktail of colors. You have green, there's red, there's orange, and a clear indicator that yes, there's traffic, but in as much as at least it's there, it is sort of quite manageable, because I was telling you a bit earlier that oftentimes what we would expect to see is more of the maroon color, given that this is just at the heart of the CBD, or at the heart of this in the city center. So ultimately, we would expect to see traffic moving pretty slowly, or even at some parts just at a standstill, a clear indicator that it's not moving at all. But as of now, there's none of that, especially now, especially on that lane that is just coming through the city center along Kimathi Street, going all the way as you head over to Kenyatta Avenue. Not so bad, in as much as yes, there's a bit of traffic, but not quite bad. But as you leave the avenue, still sticking with Kimathi Street, coming again through the other side, next to the shops, the businesses there's a bit of a gridlock there. But also remember that around these specific areas, we normally have the Uber drivers, so we normally also have the private vehicles just parked at some of these areas. So again, that is also what normally leads to or if I may say heavy traffic flow in the early morning hours, because on that lane where you would expect to see vehicles moving, there are others that have parked their vehicles there. But in as much as there's a bit of a traffic there, at least it's also manageable, moving at a pretty fast pace. But also it's important for me to mention that on just this specific area, what you are seeing, the traffic police are also normally stationed. So just like any other road, any other busy roads such as Thika Super Highway, Mombasa Road, Ngong Road, where we normally have traffic police station, and at least, you know, every roundabout or almost every intersection to just try and see how best they can control traffic. It is also no different from this specific one. We normally have the traffic police there, also just stationed up and early to try to control that. So probably the reason as to why there's no that heavy traffic congestion, in as much as there's a bit of a traffic there, but at least it's moving, you know, pretty fast. Actually, on the inner lanes, it's moving up pretty fast. But away from Kimathi Street, coming to Kenyatta Avenue, again on that area where the non-motorized transport system, or if you made the pedestrian walkways and motorcyclist lanes were just being reconstructed there, again also moving pretty fast on just some specific areas where traffic is moving at a really slow pace, and that is what that red color is indicating there. Yes, there's traffic, not even a bit of traffic, there's traffic, but moving at a pretty slow pace. That is along Kenyatta Avenue, just before you get to the roundabout, coming all the way through Uhuru Highway. But this is now, interestingly, also it is on both lanes. But again, it's one of those busy areas, you know, roads inside the city center, or one of those major roads. So obviously, or basically, that is what we'd expect to see in this early morning hour. But I also spotted a bit of a traffic next to the GPO stage, but it is, again, it is obvious. It is a stage, or if you may, a bus terminus. So ultimately that is also what you would expect to see, because remember, again, also next to the GPO stage, it comes all the way from Valley Road using the Kenyatta Avenue roundabout, coming to the city center or in the heart of the CBD. So again, that is also what you'd expect to see in this early morning hour. But coming to the roundabout, that is the Kenyatta Avenue roundabout. Again, one of those busy roundabouts, as it connects to a number of roads coming from Uhuru Highway, still going through Uhuru Highway, branching off to Kenyatta Avenue as you head over to the city center, which is what we were just from looking at. As we were looking at streets such as Kimathi Street, which is one of those latest you know, areas to be reconstructed, throughout the entire roundabout, traffic throughout the entire roundabout, but in some parts, at least, it's quite moving at a pretty fast pace, just on some specific areas where traffic is moving pretty slowly. But on major parts throughout the entire roundabout, at least it is you know, it's manageable. And you know, this is what this color indicates, because from what you can see on our screens, we can see there's a difference in color. There's some areas where we are seeing a bit of red, there's somewhere we are seeing a bit of orange. Now, just for the benefit of our viewers, in areas where you're seeing orange, that is an indicator that traffic has begun to just slightly build up, but it is manageable. In the areas where you're seeing the red color, it's an indicator that traffic is there, but moving really slowly. But also, again, for those that are still around this area, or if you're coming from Valley Road or Mbagathi Way, coming to the city center through Kenyatta Avenue roundabout, then you may just have to make do with that traffic there, because there is no alternative route. Remember that also, as we check out for you what is happening on our major roads in terms of traffic, we also ensure that we just try to spot any alternative routes and give you that, because it's the early morning hours. So obviously we would be expecting to see those that are heading over to their workstations, heading over to their businesses. So clearly, when you look at alternative routes, we have our viewers in mind. For those that are heading over to their workstations, at least to just try and look for areas which they can use to evade and avoid that traffic. But throughout the entire roundabout, doesn't look so bad, because in this early morning hour, oftentimes you'd expect to see maroon all through, and we haven't seen any of that so far, which is an indicator that it is not moving at all. In fact, it is just at a standstill. One of those cases where sometimes for drivers, you just switch off your car and park there until, you know, the traffic opens up. But as you leave the roundabout, coming to those busy highway, that is Uhuru Highway, actually that has changed now, and this is just this is throughout the entire Uhuru Highway, just before you get to the next roundabout. But also, it is again very important for me to mention that Uhuru Highway, it is one of those major highways and one of those busy highways. So what you are seeing right now, it is unlike what you were spotting when you were looking at areas such as Kimathi Street and Wabera Street, which is one of those streets, at least to be reconstructed in terms of NMT, or even what you're looking around the Kenyatta Avenue roundabout. What you're seeing along Uhuru Highway before you get to the roundabout it is so different from those two areas, because just as you leave the other roundabout, that is Haile Selassie, coming through Uhuru Highway next to Kenyatta Avenue roundabout, going through the other side of Uhuru Highway also, as you branch off to Kenyatta Avenue going to in the heart of the city center, on that specific lane, it is at a standstill. Now, look at this. This is what I was telling you earlier, the difference in colors. You will see, what I was trying to say earlier, a cocktail of colors, because you're seeing orange, you're seeing red, you're seeing green, you're seeing maroon. Now, from what this maroon means, or what it indicates, is that it is not moving at all. Nothing is happening. Traffic is just at a standstill. But as I had mentioned earlier, that Uhuru Highway is one of those busy highways. I mean, and this is what you'd expect to see. And also on this specific, lane, just as you leave the Kenyatta Avenue before you get to Haile Selassie Avenue, it also caters for both kind of vehicles, both public and both private. So ultimately, that is why we are seeing what you're seeing this morning in terms of traffic. Now, Regina, just before we get to our next segment, or our next discussion of the day, when you look at matters traffic and what the Nairobi Metropolitan Service is doing in terms of ensuring we have non-motorized transport system, we have good pedestrian walkways, we have motorcyclist lanes, what are your general thoughts in all of this?
Well, I think that they're doing an exemplary job as it is, because look at it this way: if you've been, if you've walked through Kenyatta Avenue or let alone driven through it, you'll see there's more space. You don't feel, closeted in. There's actually, you're seeing even there's a change in as far as how traffic is during the day, especially within CBD. We have now more parking slots. People can now ride, or rather cycle to the office. I know one of our colleagues actually does that, and he is quite impressed with what is currently being done. That is none other than Aguko, who takes a bike, which is quite healthy, and we're encouraging this kind of healthy lifestyle. But now, being a Monday, they'll be expecting a lot of traffic. Myself, I had an experience in the morning, and being that early, and it was that active. It's just a point that this is as one of our viewers has said, it's a maniac Monday. I just hope as we go, especially areas like Wayaki Way and Langatu Road, as well as Thika Road, it's just some minutes past 8 o'clock. I'm sure traffic is really building up. You see, Kenyans have already gone back to their various workstations within the CBD. And Kenyans are also anticipating what President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to be announcing in not too long in regard to just the direction that the country should take going forward in as far as, lockdown measures are concerned. And the question is, do we open? Do we not? So we're expecting to see a lot of activities on our roads, being that it is Monday. People are coming to their various workstations, and given that the CBD accounts for around 85% of office space within Nairobi, and it's all concentrated through the CBD, Upper Hill, Westlands, all that. And we're seeing this might actually change with what is happening under the new Nairobi Metropolitan Service, because, as we open up, you're giving people ideas that, hey, you know what, I might not necessarily require to be within CBD. I can have my office stationed outside CBD, but still conduct my other businesses, if there are small meetings here and there within the CBD at convenience, because traffic will be flowing. So we'll be waiting just like any other, person who conducts their business within the Central Business District, Doreen. Then I laud the developments that are taking shape within CBD. We've seen, repair of some roads and recarpeting here and there. We have now designated areas for parking. We have, cyclist lanes. All these are helping us, just work better within the CBD. Remember, this is a city under the sun, and it happens Nairobi is, the capital city of the country. So we need to really take good care about of that particular area. Remember, the issue of traffic has also been blamed for lost man hours within the corporate scene, where you see someone spends around 2 or 3 hours on the road, and by the time even getting to that particular office, you're already tired. So you do not, your productivity is somewhat diminished because of the hours that you spend in traffic. So we hope going forward that traffic system within at least the CBD and its environs is going to be seamless for efficiency and prosperity going forward. That's my take, Doreen.
Well, that's Interesting, even as you look at the non-motorized transport system, which is a good work that the Nairobi Metropolitan Service is doing. But that is what brings us to a close. We now want to go to our next segment, which is our first interview of the day. And even as we await to hear what the president will say in regards of updating the country on the way forward, and as we await to hear his speech on whether or not he will reopen the economy, the question that still lies is, will church reopen feature in that in that speech? And that is what we want to discuss this morning. Joining me live, that is from Nakuru County, Bishop Mike Browan of the Metro Church in Nakuru County. Bishop Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Jolene. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning to you too. Now, the question that many Kenyans are asking is that there are those that are for the church to be reopened. There are those that are against that church reopening. What are your thoughts in all of this, Bishop?
My thought on this is that it's a high time the church to be reopened, since we are going to have this problem for a long time, because COVID is not yet ready to go. It's going to be there. So we need to start working how we can live and discipline ourselves to live within the way it is and follow the rules that we are being given. So I think as we are opening other economical things that we are trusting the president to open, I think it's a high time also for the church to be reopened.
Okay, it's a high time for the church to be reopened. That is what you're saying, Bishop Mike. But there's that question of these guidelines and protocols. Maybe you can just break it down for us from a bishop points of view. What are some of these guidelines and protocols that the church has set, even as we await for what the president might say today?
Okay, some of the guidelines which are very, very important, because the truth is, people should know Corona is real, because there was a misconception. People think it's just a myth, but it is very real. So one of the things is that a church should have all the instruments that are needed to test the temperature, and people can also record it, just the way they have said we need to get the people social distancing, which is the most important, even now and even after everything is back to okay. People need to wash their hands, which is the most important thing than maybe anything else. And not just because of Corona, because this has helped for many, many other things. So with that, and we follow the rules whereby they say maybe things that people share together, like shaking hands, things like hugging or laying of hands, things that they have put aside. Those ones can be worked out very well. So those are some of the conditions. That baptism should be suspended, especially for those who are being baptized in the same baptism pool or something like that. The children who are below 2 years old, they should stay home, and also the elderly people who are very, very old, that maybe their health is not that good. So that, and then we can do that 1 meter. But the main thing that is so important is that even when people are coming, they must come with their face mask, with the mask, because it's very, very important. And just follow the other original rules, whereby if you have to sneeze, you have to sneeze through your elbow. And if people follow that, and the church is ready, because it cannot be as dangerous as the hotel or other places, because when you're in a hotel, you can't use a face mask. You have to open it to eat. But here we can still use it, because people are very, very discouraged, and now they need encouragement. And the only way they can get that encouragement is to turn to the church. And so those are some of the rules, and churches are working out to wash hands and getting the things. In fact, even us today, we are supplying some of those things to the churches that they don't have. We have been able to try to help some churches that need things like thermal temperature. They want to measure temperature, and we are ready to support them, so that at least we have church, and then from there, because this thing will be with us maybe for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think also the school in the near future, they should just start thinking a way to open these things back, because we have no time limit. We have no time that we have been told by this will go on.
Now, Bishop Mike, all the guidelines and protocols that you're mentioning, even as a church leaders, of wearing a face mask, ensuring that people wash their hands, they're just in line with the Ministry of Health guidelines. But now the question stands is, how practical is that going to be, especially for these faithfuls?
Yeah, the truth is that it will be practical because people have missed the church. And the worst place you can ever go anywhere, it is if you are to go to the market, and you will still see people are still managing to do things in the market, especially if you visit our market here, you will be shocked. But now I'm not just trying to compare the church with the market. I know people will follow it because we can have short services with a few people, so that you can have as many people as possible, but they keep the social distancing. I think it's a high time the church will pursue. They will have to follow the rules because we have been, when we were told to close down, we did close down. And now that we did close down, I think now the government should also give us the benefit of doubt and allow us now, and pastors be ready to take care of everything and follow every guidelines according to the Ministry of Health, and to make sure, because this is to endanger or to make our people healthier and happy. So it's a two-way thing, because whenever we don't have people in church, there are many things that kills them worse than even corona. There is depression. There is kind of oppression that they're going through. But at the same time, I want Kenyan to know corona is there, it's real, it's gonna be with us maybe for some time. We need to manage ourselves, and we don't need to be forced. This has been a mistake we have been going through, that whenever something is good for Kenyans must be enforced, and police use all this force. We can rule ourselves, and we can control and obey everything as obedient people.
Right. You sound very optimistic that when the churches reopen, that Kenyans will follow these protocols and these guidelines that have been set. Now, let's come to you specifically as a bishop of the Metro Church in Nakuru. What are some of the guidelines that you have set in your own church? For instance, if they reopen, that things are going to be safe for Kenyans there.
By the way, thank you so much for that question, because what we have done already, so far we have already prepared our church in a way that if it is open even tomorrow, we can show the world that we are following every rules and every law. As I've said, we have bought even the equipment to test. Even other day when people come to get some help, like we give some food sometimes, they have to be tested, they have to wash their hands, they have to sanitize, we give masks, and we have even bought masks as a church, so that just in case somebody will come without the mask, we can even offer them. And we have put the social distancing in our seats to make sure that in a normal service when we can have 2,000 people, in this particular service we can have 200 or 300. We cannot go beyond that, because that's the only way we can make sure people sit in the right distance. The choir, we are reducing the choir so that the choir can be a maximum choir that can sing in the same way. And we have also bought microphones that are sanitizable, whereby we can clean them, we can sanitize them immediately, because even every equipment must be sanitized before that. And we have bought the washing, both in the toilets and even whenever people come to the church, they will have to wash their hands. And we have set a room just in case we have someone that needs to be given an emergency or to be taken out, maybe because of that. We have nurses that we will be hiring. At least every Sunday, we will have a nurse that is steady, and we will have a vehicle that is also ready in case of anything. And I think our people, when they come, they will be very, very safe. That one I can assure.
Now, clearly, you really put in place the guidelines for the reopening of the church. That is actually if the church gets to be reopened, and also put in place guidelines in your own specific church, that is in Metro Church in Nakuru County. Thank you so much, Bishop Mike, for your time.
Thank you, Doreen. God bless you. Bye-bye.
I appreciate. Now, that has been Bishop Mike Brower from Nakuru, just talking to us on some of the guidelines that probably the church has put in place, and also that he himself as a bishop, he has put in place for in the instance that probably the president today, even as he delivers his speech on whether or not churches will be reopened. But Reggie, coming to you, when you look at the church and also what the bishop has said, that, you know, in an instance where a church carries a capacity of about 2,000, then they'll ensure that at least they have 200 or even 300 people. And Kenya would want to ask the question, how practical will that be? Because how then would you ensure that you only have 3 members in a church, 300 members in a church that carries 2,000 members?
That will be a tall order, if you ask me, because most churches, even in this time, even before coronavirus, had different, services, staggered services, different timings, so that they could, accommodate their congregation. So now, with this COVID-19 issues, then how will you then, work around just that schedule to accommodate everyone? And how will you know that we are 100? Will we all get to the entrance and then be turned back? I think from where I sit, I think it's too early to start thinking about easing these measures, especially where social gatherings are concerned. Given that report, or rather just something that has been quoted, let me just bring you to speed, or rather point you to this article that says, bad manners to blame for a sharp rise in new cases. This is according to the Ministry of Health, and says that in the press, the CAS, that is Rashid Aman, said that the cases increased on average of 146 cases per day between June 14th and June 20th, while from June 21st to June 27th, the average of daily cases were 190. Between June 28th and July 4th, the cases jumped exponentially to an average of 261 cases daily. This is proof that our cases are rising and the curve is beginning to become stiff. These rising infections imply that many more people will require critical care, and our healthcare facilities risk being overwhelmed. Quoted there is the CAS Rashid Aman. Now, in the past few weeks also, we've seen political gatherings have increased, while there are increasing cases of Kenyans bribing their way through roadblocks to cross over into or out of closed counties of Nairobi and Mombasa. As such, these practices require personal responsibility by all of us. The expectation is to have an enforcement officer to police every person is not possible. We must therefore rise up to the occasion and be responsible citizens. That is what CAS Rashid Aman had to say yesterday in regard to just that steep rise in COVID-19 cases. Well, as Kenyans are waiting the presidential address in regard to just easing or not easing on lockdown measures, what we need to remember that we need to be responsible individuals, Doreen, because if we say we open up today, for instance, just today, we say that we've eased movement. Most people, what I expect, especially those living within urban areas, would want to move from these areas because from urban, or the city and the towns, would want to go back to Gishagi, or what you call the rural areas, because the cost of living is very high within the CBD.
Exactly.
Right now, people have lost their jobs. Income is not flowing as it should. So most people will have a tendency of going back, as we say, tunarudi nyumbani, tunarudi mashambani. And yet, these are the counties that you're talking about that are ill-prepared to tackle this issue of COVID-19. What happens to the elderly that we have back at home? Our grandparents and our fathers and mothers, who are elderly. So for me, I think it's too soon to open up. That's my opinion. And also, given the current the cases that we're having right now, I don't think it would be prudent. So I'm also waiting to see how the president is going to balance out, ensuring that the economy continues to run as well as, stemming the spread of COVID-19, since almost all counties have at least one case of COVID-19. Doreen, I don't know, what is your take in regard to these issues?
Ray, you have raised so many issues and pertinent issues, because you've just mentioned the preparedness even of the health systems in our counties. And we also had a similar story this morning when you're looking at what was happening in the dailies in terms of in the headlines, looking at how counties are not that prepared at a point where we are almost inching the 6,000 mark. You can imagine, as of now, almost 8,000 confirmed cases, but even at that, still counties in the country are not prepared to deal with the surge of these numbers. And then you might just wonder, in as much as yes, you really want and anticipate and are waiting, eagerly waiting for what the president will say in regards of updating the country on the way forward, and also as we await for him to, on whether he will reopen or not reopen, there's still that there's still that case, because as of now, things are a bit closed, and this is how much we are recording in terms of numbers. So what if actually the country is reopened? And then also, to go to an extent further, what if the churches are reopened? We're just having that conversation earlier on with Bishop Mike in terms of ensuring that all these protocols and guidelines are put in place. But the question still remains, and the question still lingers: how practical will these guidelines be? Remember that it's been over 3.5 months, at least as of now, since since the churches were closed, and people have also missed each other. And we are Africans, we are Kenyans. Sometimes you don't even think about that disease. Once you see someone you're used to, we are so easy to want to hug and shake hands. So the question still remains is, how practical will these protocols, when you talk about wearing of masks, when you talk about washing hands, when you talk about sanitizing, when you talk about social distancing, even in the churches, this question is still, how practical will this be? And again, there was also that question of a church that has about 2,000 to 3,000 members. How will you ensure that in every Sunday, at least only 200 members or 300 members can come in? And Regina, you also mentioned that, will it be a question of, will you be turned away the moment you come, you come inside? So these are some of the questions that we need to be asking ourselves, even as we anticipate and await for what the president will say today as he updates us on the way forward.
Doreen, those are issues that are going to be highlighted in the course of the day. Yeah, on the course of the day, just focusing on the...
As you just try to get your son, again, these are some of the questions that we keep asking ourselves as Kenyans. Yes, we are eager, we are waiting. There are also those in rural areas who were locked out at that time when the president announced the cessation of movement in and out of Nairobi, as well as the other specified counties. And there were those that had been locked out of Nairobi, bearing in mind that some had left their families here. Of course, there are some that had left their children. We also had a similar story this morning on the Standard, where there was a lady who was just feeling and wanting the president to just open so that she can come from the rural setup, come to Nairobi to just see her kid. But again, the question still remains, if that happens, how will we ensure that we control these numbers which are rising so steadily, which are rising so fast? That is still a question that we are continuously, we are continuing to ask ourselves. Again, also when it comes to the churches, because that's the conversation we were having, there has also been that question of numerous pastors. We have seen pastors, preachers, and even bishops in some parts of the country, in different counties, just really pushing forward for these churches to be opened. And a question that Kenyans have been asking across boards is that, is it really that they really want these churches to be open, or some are just out here because of the tithes and offerings and then Thanksgiving seeds? So these are again some of the questions that Kenyans have been asking. Yes, they are pushing forward for the churches to be open, but what exactly is the main motive? Is it just for the spiritual nourishment? Is it just for the spiritual growth? Or there's another, issue such as paying of tithes, such as offering? So again, also these are the things that we're trying to look at, because again, also Kenyans are saying that what is really, there's so much need of opening churches when throughout this entire period things have been running online. We have seen a majority of churches conducting their services, even having these gatherings online where there's a pastor or on Facebook Live or even on Instagram. So again, the question still remains that we are pushing so much for these churches to be reopened. What has been happening all throughout these 3 months? Things have been running and happening online. So again, also one thing that Kenyans are asking is that why can't that just continue? Why can't we just continue doing things online? So yes, we are waiting to see what the president will say. We are waiting to see what the president will update us going forward. But even as we await the president's speech and update, we are still waiting to see whether churches will be reopened. We want to take a very short break, but we'll be back with more, so stay with us.
brief conversation there with my colleague, I heard of the national address by President Uhuru Kenyatta, with Kenyans very expectant of the decisions that the executive is going to take in regard to easing the lockdown measures, or rather the measures that had been put in place to stem the spread of COVID-19. Thank you very much. Keep tweeting. We have a lot of feedback, and I'm going to sample this in the course of, this particular interactive segment. Now, moving away from, issues of COVID-19, or someone now focusing on matters education, is that the issue of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, in a normal school calendar, these are not popular subjects, to say the least. In the latest report about, education, and especially in higher institutions of higher learning, only 22% of students who are applying for courses in the university took up, or rather enrolled in STEM fields. This comes at a time, the irony is that the youth are still claiming that they are jobless, and some of them are saying they've been locked out from learning institutions, higher learning institutions, yet only 22% of students who enrolled in university applied for STEM fields. So what then do we do to change this perception, given that science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are core subjects for any country that is seeking to scale heights in industrialization, in innovation and such? So the issue of using the digital platform to just, or rather raise awareness about STEM and its importance in society is what we are talking about. How then can we use a digital mentorship program to ensure that more people understand the need for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in their day-to-day life? Where to apply? Where are the opportunities? That's a conversation we are having this morning, and I'm joined by Dr. Alice Ochanda, the program specialist at UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa, and the coordinator for STEM education. She will be taking us through that conversation. So good morning, Ali, Dr. Alice. How are you? Dr. Alice Ochanda, you are live on KBC Channel 1. This is Good Morning Kenya. We want you to shed light on the digital program to just foster awareness and what impact it will have on just on creating popularity, or rather traction, for STEM courses, given what we have, the latest report, only 22% of students who enrolled in university applied for STEM fields. Why do you think this is so? So Dr. Alice Ochanda will be coming up in not too long to discuss that issue. And if you are a young person and already pursuing, or rather seeking to pursue matters of STEM, tell us why you think STEM is quite important. Because STEM also has to do, this digital program is going to be implemented through various media platforms, including yours truly, that is KBC. Channel 1 is going to be undertaking, this digital mentorship program that is also going to be laying focus on engineering, appreciation for physical applied sciences, as well as looking at, ocean sciences at a time when, Kenya is really looking towards, harvesting, or rather harnessing potential of the blue economy as well as the green economy. Those are some of the areas of focus that this program is going to be focusing on, and KBC is going to be part and parcel of that particular program to just ensure that we take up STEM courses, and also the impact that STEM courses and STEM fields are going to have in the long run. It seems now we have our guest online. She's already online. That is Dr. Alice Ochanda, who is a program specialist at UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa, and she happens to be the coordinator of STEM education. Good morning, Dr. Alice. How are you?
Good morning to you.
Great.
Thank you. And how are you?
I'm good and great. When you're talking about the issues of STEM, I'm glad to see that the person who's running this particular program happens to be female, because if you look at it, the statistics point to that most female, or rather female students of female gender shy away from taking up STEM field courses. Maybe we can start off from there. Why do you think that STEM related fields are often not the fast peaks for students in institutions of higher learning?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me in your studio. Well, it is common knowledge that the girls and women do tend to shy away from, science, technology, engineering, and mathematical sciences, simply fields, simply because you see the way they are socialized. We are brought up to believe that this is a preserve of the male gender, that we need not go there. These subjects are hard, we cannot cope. And so naturally, by the way they are socialized, they tend to move away from these subjects. And what we've seen that this has really led to marginalization and low participation of girls in these fields. And so that calls for, an intervention that can bring them back to this field, because we are having a situation where it is not only the girls now who are not participating in these fields effectively, but even the boys tend to be shying away from, these so-called STEM fields.
So from where you sit, Dr. Alice, why do you think then STEM fields are not popular? Yet we know that they're core, they're core fields, they're core subjects that can really change the dynamics of any economy across the globe.
I think the problem is that the students have not been made to understand the importance of this subjects in their lives, and also for the sustainable development of their countries. So you find that a student is taking chemistry, but he or she does not really understand what chemistry has to do with his life, or how relevant is it. And it's sort of a mystery for them. So it is important to demystify this subject and show the relationship between their subjects and their day-to-day lives. And that is one of the things that we intend to do in our program, which focuses on mentoring these students to give them really information, insight into the implications of the subjects they're taking in school, that they're not being just taught in a vacuum, but that there is a lot of significance in these subjects, not just for for the development of the country, but for their own lives, because they do interact with sciences, STEM, every day in their lives. And so it's really important, even in the school environment, for teachers to not teach in a vacuum, but really try and relate these subjects to the day-to-day life of the students.
Day-to-day life. Now, Madam Alice, we've seen that the government has also been at the fore to support, STEM, or rather take up of STEM fields in, within the education value chain, so to speak, but it has not taken root. Now, with the use of digital mentorship program, then how will this then change the course in how we feel or how we see STEM-related fields?
What we intend to do, there have been mentorship programs, and UNESCO, together with the Ministry of Education, have been having mentorship programs which previously targeted just the female, students, because of, what you raised, the issue you raised at the beginning of our discussion, that girls are not participating in the STEM fields. Now, we have been having mentorship programs so we can inspire them and nurture these girls to join the STEM fields. However, with the advent of COVID-19, we realized that the situation is even likely to become worse, not just for the girls alone, but even for the boys. And so we came up with this digital mentorship platform, which aims to, reach more students who are out there, and also, to keep them connected with the STEM subjects. Because when you can imagine a situation where these girls already feel that STEM is hard, I shouldn't go there, and so they have a situation where there's nobody to nurture them, nobody is talking really that closely to them about the STEM fields. And as much as KICD is providing this the educational content, but there isn't that personal touch where you need the extra support to just unlock the potential that you have, as a student. And so the digital platform is to reach out to all the students who are out there, to connect them, continue keeping them connected to the science, subjects, and also to use this technology to provide them with information on the various fields of this of STEM, the various STEM fields, looking at not just profession in isolation, but again, what are the available opportunities, employment opportunities out there for these students when they take these particular courses. And we are also cognizant of the fact that as time goes by, we keep on seeing these students not engaging in some of these, selecting some of these courses at the university level. And this is a cause of concern for us, because for Kenya to really realize its Big Four agenda and the Vision 2030, and even the global, 2030 agenda for sustainable development, all these agendas, they are anchored on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And therefore, we need to have young people who are coming up with a focus on STEM-oriented fields.
Now, Dr. Alice Chandana, how about you elaborate on, how this will be executed and which areas will this particular digital mentorship program focus on?
Thank you. The digital mentorship, STEM mentorship program will focus on, will be executed through a partnership with KBC, and for TV and radio. So we'll use mainstream radio to communicate the information to the students. We'll also use community radios, because we do acknowledge the fact that not every body in Kenya is able to tune in to TV and the mainstream radio. And so we use community radios that cover the entire country. And so that also goes to the point of not only using the English dissemination of the information, but they're also going to have the content that is being prepared by the STEM role models and mentors translated into the vernacular languages, so that we can reach those areas that are not easily reached. In other words, we intend to leave no one behind in the process of delivering our mentorship program. Now, which are the subjects? Now, these subjects are going to be, we're going to start with the basic, sciences. First and foremost, you're talking about biology and chemistry, and just have a STEM professional who is going to talk to has prepared a presentation, audio presentation, and the professional is going to talk to the students about the chemistry and the existence of chemistry and biology in the food they eat. In other words, relating the chemistry and biology, bringing it to closer home, so that they can see that they interact with biology, they interact with chemistry. After that, we are going to move into physics, and the fact that physics is everywhere in our lives, and the students need not look at it as something that is so alienated, far away from their environment. Now, physics relates very closely, to mathematics, and so we have also a mathematics professional who is going to look at mathematics, present the mathematics to the students from that angle of that will enable them to appreciate mathematics in their lives, and after which the students can now move to see the importance of really concentrating on the concepts, the different mathematical concepts, as opposed to looking at it as something that is already tough, with a biased attitude. Now, from the basic sciences, we'll move on to the applied sciences, and so we bring in the engineering, courses, where the students will be introduced to the different engineering courses that are there, and to assist them to make informed, career choices, particularly if they want to pursue engineering. After that, we'll also look at the earth. the planet Earth where we are, and that will introduce students to some of these fields that they really don't know. Nobody really bothers to introduce them to in the school environment. That is earth sciences. We are looking at geological issues. How do you explain to students when there's a separation on the road, in Naivasha? How do the students get to understand that this is something that is scientific that is happening, and how does it impact on them? And then from there, again, we move to green economy, where we look at agricultural sciences and the implication in Kenya's, economy and our sustainable development. Can we feed the country? If we don't embrace the agricultural sciences, what does it mean to us and to our entire country? And we also look at the blue economy. This is a new area, and I believe you remember in June when the Minister of Education talked about the admissions in the university. No student applied for oceanography at Pwani University. And these are some of the things that we want to show the students. A blue economy, the waters that we have around us, that the Indian Ocean is a source of income, is a source of employment. And they can go there if only they can embrace the science that, the marine science, the science that is linked to the blue economy. And the issue that really is with us every day now, and we are seeing it, and this is climate change. We are going to also introduce the students to climate science, where we also bring the students to understand how we can mitigate climate change and also adapt to it. And these are all going to be provided by professionals. But last but not least, we do understand that these students, they're human beings. And these students are young people who have issues that they are personal issues that they're dealing with. And so we'll move from the subjects and all that, and then we try to address their own personal issues through a life and survival skills presentation that of course will try to make the students deal with the issues that are having, that they link to technology. The parents are so busy, they're not there. And so how do you write your own story in life? So the student then would have to understand the importance of self-confidence, the importance of having a vision, the importance of pursuing your dream, and not being, disoriented by, negative peer pressure, and just focusing on what you want to achieve. Because at the end of the day, it is your life, it is your future as an individual. And you're a student today, tomorrow you're a professional, but it is you to build up, your future. So in a nutshell, that's really how the program is structured.
Indeed, that sounds very promising there, especially now the fact that you have moved from the theorem of STEM courses and make it more practical. I remember while I went through high school, we kept on asking ourselves, then where will I apply the mole concept? Or, or where will I apply what I'm learning, when dissecting that grasshopper and a frog? I think now just making it more practical, it will ensure that, more people appreciate what STEM stands for. So I think that's a step in the right direction. And also the fact that it is not just going to be in English, it's also going to be offered in vernacular languages. Now, quick question, Dr. Alice. The issue, how long do you expect this STEM program, or rather, how long will the STEM digital mentorship program last?
Thank you. This is something that we started because, of course, because of COVID, we cannot go out to those students. Previously, would have STEM mentorship camps, which would last, 1 week, and this year, actually, in April, we were supposed to go to Mutumu Girls for the central region. Now, for this particular case, we intend to have this program go on up to probably towards the end of the year, end of October. However, this is not just a one-off thing, because together with Safaricom, we've established a platform, the Ask a STEM Mentor platform, which means that the mentorship will continue even after that the duration of the program. But then again, from now on, we are going to continue having a STEM digital mentorship program for students, even after COVID. I mean, it's not after COVID, but basically the new normal, because COVID is here, to stay. It is here with us. And so we'll continue having the digital STEM mentorship program, because again, remember, we are in an environment where technology is ruling the world, and we really have to use technology um, to reach out to our students. Secondly, the digital STEM mentorship program provides us with an opportunity to also, one, reach more students, two, also give the opportunity to the boys who are also in high school out there to benefit from this information that we do have and that we believe will benefit all students in the country. And we hope that they will tune in so that they can listen to us. So even after the initial stage passes, we intend to continue with this program from now on.
Is it going to be a daily broadcast? Because you've mentioned quite, heavy areas of focus, including ocean sciences, green economy, health sciences, climate, life and survival skills. Is it going to be a daily program? And the duration of a class, how long would be the duration of a class if it's going to be daily? Then thirdly, as we do this, is it going to be staggered, or are we going to have Mondays for health sciences, Tuesday for life skills? How do you intend to work on the schedule so that those who are watching and who are keen to just get onto the bandwagon and learn a thing or two about STEM field courses can get to know what to look out for?
Okay, thank you. We already have the KICD educational content being delivered, and so we know that these students, have a lot that they have to, they are dealing with. But this is to complement the KICD educational content. And so what we are going to do, we'll have it every once a week. And for KBC, it's going to be on Saturdays between 10 and 10:30. It's a duration of about half an hour for the radio. And the two subjects that we are going to have on television, that is mathematics and physics, will be a duration of 40 minutes. Now, we also intend to, for the community radios, it's also going to be once a week. We don't want a situation where we have everything, coming every week. So we give them 1 week. And because we are also once a week, because we are also giving them the students the opportunity to ask questions and send questions to this Ask a STEM Mentor, platform. Now, the arrangement is going to be like, if we start the first session, we are going to start with chemistry and biology presentation. Now, the following week, then we'll have physics, presentation on physics. And we are hoping that this will give the students the opportunity to really, listen, get to tune in, and also send their questions. They may not be able to ask all the questions on radio or, live TV coverage, but the Ask a STEM Mentor platform provides them with an opportunity to send their questions through shortcode messages. And this is already up and running from, I think, today, actually, the 6th of July. So the students have the opportunity to not to be bombarded with so much information, because this is another thing that really puts students off. We want them to be relaxed. Every week you have something that is going to help you to make an informed career choice.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That is once a week, both on radio and TV. It's also going to create an opportunity it's an interactive segment where participants can ask the questions, and I Ask a STEM mentorship platform there on SMS. Is this SMS toll free? Is it free, or is one supposed to pay? Is it a premium SMS or a toll free SMS line?
I think Safaricom has provided this to facilitate the students to communicate, with to get the mentorship services from the STEM role model. So they are going to be given, I think, a code that they're going to use, and to send their questions to that particular number. I really don't think that they're going to pay for it.
Very well said. Now, as we come to a close, Dr. Alice Uchanda, you've said that this program is not, it's just, you're targeting for it to end maybe at the end of October, but it doesn't mean that the mentorship program comes to a standstill. In the next if this catches on and gains a lot of traction, from where you sit, what does the future hold for STEM courses, in the local scene? Being that you're already in the university and such, maybe you can give us an overview of what this expectations, if this meets your objectives, then in the next 5 years and maybe into the long term 10 years, is this going to change how we view STEM field courses?
Definitely, that's our aim. We want to change how the students view STEM courses, how the teachers also, teach and support their students to embrace STEM, and lastly, how the parents support their own children, irrespective of their gender, to embrace, STEM fields, so that the parents, the teachers, and the students see the importance and the implication of, STEM fields in their day-to-day lives, and also for the sustainable development of the country. We do believe, and this is why we've been having this program at initially we had where we would go to school and mentor students per region. And so far we had reached, I think, 191 schools. We believe that this will change the number of students that will be going into STEM fields in the universities. And we do believe that the 22% who are the only 22% that are enrolled in STEM courses in our universities will definitely be, a thing of the past. We also expect the students to see science not just as something that they need to do and then start looking for a job, asking the government, waiting for the government. But we expect the students to see STEM fields as fields that are supposed to be for job creation. In other words, students should be able to sustain themselves, come out as a STEM professional, be able to sustain yourself, create jobs so that you can create jobs and employment opportunities for others, in the country.
Now, just as you come to a close, Dr. Alice Onyancha, I've seen a very keen focus, quite an attractive area of focus, life and survival skills. Maybe you can just elaborate on what, because it doesn't sound just for students, then maybe I can be interested to find out what, life and survival skills will be about. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Thank you. As I said earlier, life and survival skills is basically we are moving from just bombarding the students with information, academic information. Yes, you're studying this and you move on. And we now focus on the individual who is growing up, has a lot of issues to deal with, hormonal changes, the pressure that is out there for them to study, and this feeling that parents don't understand me, feeling social media, and a lot of bullying that goes on there, and eventually losing self-esteem, not even having the confidence that they can perform well, that they can achieve, and they can be somebody in life. And so we are showing the students that coming back to focus on themselves, that you're a worthy human being. You're beautiful, you're created, in a beautiful way. You have the skills. All you need to do is to unlock your potential. But how do you do that? First of all, you must have a vision. You just don't study without a vision. You have to know what you want to be 5 years from now. What would you like to be? And you have to remember that nobody is there to determine your destiny. It is you. Your future is in your hands. And so you must have that self-confidence, because don't let people deflate you and your self-confidence, make you feel that you're not worthy of being there. And so you can prove to the world that really you are a master or a mistress of your own destiny, and convince people by working hard, not just by talking. And then, of course, avoid situations that would end up making you not realize your dream. For example, being vulnerable to taking drug and substance abuse, following the wrong friends. And also now we are faced with a situation with a lot of gender-based violence out there, how do the students prevent themselves from being in a situation where they find themselves vulnerable to, sexual exploitation, or, just the emotional abuse that makes them feel that they cannot go on with life anymore? And we've seen a lot of young people, committing suicide or just giving up. So bringing them to appreciate themselves as human beings and people with potential, and people who need not look for somebody else to tell them, where they want to go career-wise, but they can build their future and succeed in whatever they want to do, break that, ceiling, and just be whoever they want to be. Because everybody out there, that is what we are looking for, and there are people who would like to support them. And of course, lastly, we know that there are students who are from, backgrounds that they feel that, I come from a poor background, I can't make it. And the mentors are also there to tell them, listen, it doesn't mean that you must come from a privileged background to make it. A lot of us who made it, very successful in our careers, we didn't come from, those rich, privileged backgrounds, but it is sheer hard work, and education is what you need to really change your destiny.
Sheer hard work and education is what you need to change your destiny. Stop being vulnerable to that can curtail your success. That has been our guest, Dr. Alice Ochanda, who is a program specialist at UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa and the coordinator for STEM education, sharing insights into the STEM digital mentorship program that begins or rather commences today. And KBC Channel 1 is going to be part of that particular program, and it's going to be airing on radio and TV. That is going to be airing at least once a week on radio and TV, both, and also going to be available in vernacular, talking about life skills there, and she's shared so much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ari. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you on board. There you've had it. KBC Channel 1 is going to be part of this particular STEM digital mentorship program that commences today and just aims at changing, our perception around STEM courses, given that the latest report from tertiary institutions is that only 22% of students who applied for courses in university took STEM, or rather STEM field courses. Why? That has been explained by our guest there, Dr. Alice Ochanda, saying that, most students do not understand how they can apply, or how then these STEM courses can apply to their lives and the opportunities they're in. This broadcast is going to be coming to you live or every once a week on radio and television, talking about with some areas of focus being marine or ocean sciences, green economy, health sciences, climate science, physical applied sciences, engineering, as well as life and survival skills. You can get more details on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. It's always a pleasure to have you on board on Good Morning Kenya, all the way from 7 a.m. to 10. It's my time to bid you a great day ahead. I leave in the able hands of my colleague, Doreen Arange. I'm Regina Manyara.
Hamjambo wa Kenya wenzangu, mimi ni prosecutor. Niko hapa kusisitiza maagizo ambayo tunapewa na Wizara ya Afya kuhusu ugonjwa wa coronavirus. Tunaambiwa pahali pana watu wengi lazima tuweke distance, yani kuweka hatua mita moja kwa mwenzako. Ukienda kwa matatu, weka distance. Ukienda kwa soko ama palipopote mkusanyiko wa watu, ni vizuri uweze kupeana hiyo social distance ili tuweze kumaliza maambukizi. Tukifuata haya masharti ama maagizo ambayo tunapewa na Wizara ya Afya, hakika tutaangamiza coronavirus. virus, na hali yetu ya kawaida tutairudia. Asanteni sana.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
It's a different ball game. Online concerts, album releases, and virtual parties.
That's the new norm in the entertainment scene.
Corona or no corona, hii mwaka lazima zote test.
Rock and roll on Grapevine.
Every Monday at 10 p.m.
Hali imekuwa ngumu, hakuna pesa kila kona, kila mtu unamdai naye anasingizia corona.
Conversations, adolescents' reproductive health and teenage pregnancies during COVID-19 is our focus this morning. To help us understand more about that and what has been resulting to this surge in numbers, joining me on set, Anne Joyce, who is a teacher and also doubles up as a curriculum specialist on matters education and health. Anne, good morning, and how are you doing this fine morning?
Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine. Now, before we go to the whole aspect of teenage pregnancy, just speaking from your, your specialties, which is on matters education and health, tell us, which are your key areas of focus?
Oh, good morning, everyone. So, my name is Anne Joyce Sobuga. I'm a high school teacher. And my specialty is health education, social reproductive health. So this morning, as I come on set, when we talk about teenage pregnancy, I'll be talking about my 9 years experience as a teacher. And of importance is that the first 4 years of my career as a teacher was I spent it in a purely girls' school. So the last 5 years, I've spent them within the curriculum development context, being able to look at the pertinent and contemporary issues in education. Pertinent and contemporary issues in education, this is the area of education and the curriculum that KICD has set aside so that we can be able to look at some of these key issues. How then do we empower young people to focus on key issues that affect their life? And I want to know that adolescent sexual and reproductive health is a key concern.
It's a key concern.
It is a key concern, and it's a matter that should be, should not be taken lightly, but it breaks my heart that still in 2020, these are things that adolescent sexual and reproductive health, these are things we want to talk about in hushed tones. We want to use a lot of euphemism when they matter, the issue is...
It is happening.
It is
here
happening.
With us.
It is here with us.
And the faster we address it, the easier and the better.
And the faster we address it, the better for us, and being comfortable around these issues. You see, we've gotten to a point where, you have no option as a parent, as a teacher, especially when handling adolescents. You cannot shy away from these topics and
now,
these.
Yeah, and when you said that issues to do with adolescents and adolescent reproductive health is a key issue, what exactly do you mean by that?
Let's first look at what adolescent sexual and reproductive health is.
Yeah.
We are referring to a state where young people, they are physically, emotionally, and mentally able to take care of themselves, then be able to avoid unwanted pregnancies, unsafe abortions, be able to prevent STIs, and prevent coercion for sex. That is what we are talking about when we are referring to adolescent sexual and reproductive health. And this is a major concern, and it's so important because all of us know we were once upon a time, we were teenagers.
Everyone has passed through that stage to be where they are right now.
To be where we are right now.
Yeah.
And one of the key issues that I find most of us talking about is, then how do I go about it?
Exactly.
And I tell parents, begin from what you know. You think about yourself as a 15, a 14, 16, 17, 18-year-old, and what you knew and the things that concerned you the most, all right? Let us begin at that point. You see, things have become worse. You see, what we knew when we were that age
is different.
I think it's 10 times what young people know.
So things have really
honestly.
drastically changed a lot.
They have. The context in which young people are growing up today is, they are bombarded with a lot of information from all angles, day in, day out. And even as adults, honestly,
yeah.
Today, if you go online, you have all this information.
There's
all
so
this
much information out there.
Yes, and what helps us stay sober and calm in our decision making, even with COVID-19, you remember when it started?
Yes.
There was so much fake news around and everything. But what helps you stay sober as an adult is the fact that you can be able to differentiate the myths, the truths, and and say like, oh, this is a myth.
So it's having that right and proper information.
It is having right and proper information. Okay. And I would ask, who will give these young people the right and proper information?
Now, Anne, you've said something very important, especially when it comes to parents and teaching their teens about these issues to do with reproductive health. But now there's that question of, a parent will say that in my time, we didn't have this kind of conversation. It was just like you find things out for yourselves because their parents at that time couldn't teach them. So how then do I bring myself as a parent to start teaching my teen when I didn't grow up with that kind of upbringing? So how do you draw that balance?
It's an interesting, and I love parents who begin from the point of, what can I do? Where can I start? My heart breaks for parents, and I really get angry and concerned. I've had parents who come to the parenting scene and say, I will raise my children the way they were raised. The way I was raised.
Yeah.
I will raise my children the way I was raised. Ni viboko mtoto afanye Kenya anafaa kufanya. Kama hasikii nitatuanga yeye. You see.
And you're forgetting you're living in different times?
We forget that you are missing a major opportunity as a parent. Look at it this way. If you want to know how much things have changed, look at it this way. Even a computer that was used when we were growing up, is it being used? I mean, if you went to an office and you saw that kind of computer, what comes to mind?
What is wrong with this company?
What's wrong with, even in our houses, the TVs that we grew up with, the black and white TV, it's no longer used.
Exactly.
That should actually tell us. And again, at what age did you access a mobile phone?
Well, after high school.
At what age are our kids accessing the mobile phone?
Even in primary school.
And
right now, given the fact that everything is being digitized, even education, they're learning from the online platforms. So not knowing even what they have access to is also a challenge.
That's a challenge. And that's why getting to the scene of parenting and guiding an adolescent and reaching here and saying, ni viboko na kumtwanga, you are losing that child. And as we progress, I'll give you a few instances that will actually point to us why that is dangerous. And let me also say that when we talk about adolescent sexual and reproductive health, it's not occurring nowhere. I mean, within the Kenyan education system, within our constitution, within policies and the treaties and declarations, that Kenya has signed as a country. Kenya has made a serious commitment, to engage itself in adolescent reproductive health as one of the major development agendas, all right? So that when we are looking at these young people, these adolescents, okay, we are looking at them as major partners in the development of our country. Okay. And then we come to this scene with the realization that their reproductive health is a major hindrance to them achieving the goals, the goals of education that as a country we envision for them. Okay. We look at them as young people who are empowered for the future. But then we realize that if we do not invest enough in adolescent reproductive health, we are going to lose it. And so what have we done as a country? When we come from the constitution and then we come down to the Ministry of Education, when we look at the education sector policy on HIV and AIDS, that sets the ground for us to work. And it says the Ministry of Education and the government of Kenya commits itself to offer correct and accurate information to adolescents. And when we are talking about sexuality information, let us also recognize that we are talking about age-appropriate and need-based. And I want us to focus for a moment on what we term as age-appropriate and need-based. Age-appropriate because a young person at the age of 9, 10, or even 6, there is a bit of sexual and reproductive information that you introduce them to. For example, when you're looking at a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, there is the basic that we tell them to be aware of when they are being abused sexually so that they can be able to speak up, okay? So now, when we come to adolescents...
Now, just before we go to the adolescent, maybe for the benefit of our viewers who might be watching, and when you say the age appropriateness and what to teach a child at what time, because oftentimes that always is a question. What do I teach my 6-year-old? What do I teach my 9-year-old, which is different from what I might teach my 15-year-old? Now, when you talk about the basics, just very briefly, what are these?
The basics, again, are going to be informed by need.
Okay.
Need. Yeah. Let us also realize, sometimes when we look at young people and children across ages, we tend to believe that they are an homogeneous group, that all of them are at the same level of development and at the same context. It's not the case. For instance, when you look at a 9-year-old, for instance, in the rural areas, you look at a 9-year-old in the informal settlement or the urban settlement, that already sets the scene for you.
It's different, just because of the different demographics and the setups.
Yes, it's different. And then we look at a young person in a boarding school, all right? Say a 10 or 15-year-old in a boarding school, and one who goes to school, leaves home and goes to school every day. You see, the need for these people in terms of sexual reproductive health is already different. So that is why that's why we say that when we talk about sexual reproductive health and being able to take young people through it, with regard to their age, there is need for you as a parent, and that's why we are saying, in this scene of parenting, you are going to sit down, really understand the context in which your child has found themselves in,
and the upbringing, and where they were born,
and the upbringing, and then the technology that they are exposed to every day. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. She has an 11-year-old daughter, and 11. The age is 11-year-old. So she has this mobile phone that she uses.
In 11 years,
yes.
11 years.
Yeah, my son is 10 and he has a mobile phone. And it's because, after COVID, we got into the e-learning and the school.
Everything is on the digital platform.
Yes. So you as a parent, you have bought this phone for your child because the school requires you to, to go on Zoom classes.
Exactly.
you are working.
Yeah.
You see, you can't be home so that they use their phone all the time. So you're going to give them a gadget that they can use. So these 11-year-olds, you know, according to the parents, they're doing Zoom classes. That's what they've been doing.
Yeah, because you're not monitoring exactly what they're doing all the time.
And yeah, and sometimes it's hard because the internet is there. So one evening, her phone drops in water, you know, and then she's like, oh no, I just have to use your phone. Then she takes the phone. And then looking at, you know, the way you go and look at the history of
the
what
child
they've been looking for online, then you found the girl has been looking for penis. What does a penis look like?
So pornographic content, basically.
Yeah, not per se pornographic, but the child was curious
to want to know.
Yeah, because when you look at the history, the child had, you know, she sent me screenshots. Said, look at what my child is.
And this is an 11-year-old child.
Yeah.
Not even a teenage yet.
Not even a teenage, but they are curious. You know, probably.
So where's the missing link?
Probably maybe they were watching a cartoon or someone just mentioned it. You see, we can't say that they are curious to have sex, but she's curious to know.
What is this?
What is this? All right?
Yeah.
So that's why we say when we talk about this, you see, I also want to really avoid being the person who says, who gives a you know, like a prescription, like for a 9-year-old do this, a 6-year-old do this. I just want to say, you know your child, first of all, the age they are, you know the context within which you're raising them. You know, it can be an urban setup, it can be, you know, this setup where and people who are in large families, for instance.
Also, that is something to consider.
Yes, that is something
before
to consider.
Administering any kind of sex education to your teen.
Yes,
all right.
Because sometimes when we are in large and big families and we are living as a community, you never know. You know, you never know who your child is talking to. You never know who's talking to your child. We've seen instances where you know, relatives and even siblings abuse, you know, younger children.
Or sometimes even the siblings coming together.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Now, and even as you talk about and trying to find out where is the missing link, because it looks like this is a huge problem. And sometimes even when you talk about parents coming in to teach their children, we are living at a times where a parent is always on the go. I'm hustling. I have to make sure that this child is comfortable. If it's fees, it is paid for. If it's food, they are eating. So why else am I still continuing to monitor, or why else am I teaching when there's a teacher there? And the question is, who should take responsibility? Is it the parent? Is it the teacher? Is it the society?
You see, when it comes to issues of parenting, as a parent, you are an active agent in the life of your child. You see, as teachers, like right now, COVID-19 is here, okay? So if you're still waiting for teachers to teach, school is not there. I mean, nobody knows when
the children are at home now.
Yeah, when school is going to be happening. You know, we don't know. We've been home for a whole year, all right? So now, the question I would also ask is, who provides for this child? And in the event of a major life issue occurring, like a teenage pregnancy, okay, who's going to carry the major burden? It's you, the parent. And one thing I also want to note about sexuality education, especially when it comes from parents, and actually I'm a Christian, so when I say this, when it comes from parents,
from a Christian perspective.
And I'm a Christian. I said I'm a Christian, so that what I'm going to say may not be construed to, you know, to imagine that I belong in a particular sect or something.
All right.
So when we talk about parents, talking about sexuality education and reproductive health, and then the church comes in, I get very worried as a teacher.
When the church comes in?
Yes.
Why?
I get very worried. Okay. It's good that all of us should put our heads together when we are talking about these issues. Okay. And the church, they have a voice, you know. But I get worried when we give church prominence.
Oh, to discuss these issues.
To discuss these issues. Okay. I would ask you one thing. If you go to any place in this country, look for any Form 3 students and ask them the mole concept. wherever they are, whether they're in Kisumu, Siaya, Machakos, you know, wherever they are, they can precisely tell you what the mole concept is. Ask any Form 1 probably, what's the area, you know, how do you calculate the area of a square? Anywhere, you will be told. But how comes that when we talk about sexual and reproductive health, when you ask any child in this country, you don't get the same answers? I mean, that is where the problem lies. Why? And today I want to talk about our over-investing in other things, and then thinking that sexual reproductive health is just this small,
it's a tiny thing.
A tiny.
You learn when you go. If you get something, okay. If you don't, ilikupita.
Yeah, like we just think that 100% of the life of a young person, you know, let them go to school, get education, you know, I'm paying. I get parents who feel frustrated. They're like, I pay school fees, I
don't understand why she got pregnant.
I don't understand.
Wow. It's interesting.
Now, there lies the question. And today I'll just ask every parent with an adolescent, okay? You have bought textbooks for maths, English, physics, and every other subject. Which book is your child reading on life skills and reproductive health? You see, if you are able to answer that question, then probably we can begin having a conversation of, I have provided everything.
So this question of I'm always out here hustling, I'm ensuring that this child can be able to go to school, I'm paying fees, is just a question of not prioritizing things well. Is that the case?
Yes.
So what you're saying is that parents need to start prioritizing things better. Okay.
Because reproductive health is a priority for adolescents. Why? As I said, when we get to adolescence, you know, puberty happens. Then you begin having all these body change. You don't understand. Teenagers don't understand. That's why you'll find them online, you know, most of the time asking questions. Okay, my boobs are painful. What do I do? I had wet dreams yesterday.
What does this mean?
What does this mean? What is this even? You know, my skin, my face is breaking out. What do I do about it? I'm having painful periods. What do I do about it? You see, so when you are able to look at adolescent reproductive health, you find that it's a whole wide area. And there's a lot of information that young people need that eventually, when they have the right information and the right knowledge, it shapes them in a way that they are able to acquire the right skills, the right attitude, to be able to make an informed decision.
Okay, to be able to make an informed decision.
Informed decision in exploring their sexuality. And I want us to underline the key word informed. Informed, why? Informed because, like I've said, the number of issues that even one young girl battles with are many. First of all, there's menstruation you have to deal with. Either you have painful cramps or your cramps just come and go. Either you are talking about which menstruation commodity works for me, because not everything.
Use what everyone else is using.
Yes, and what brand works for me, because not everything works for them. Okay, again, I'm shy. I'm beginning to feel really shy. This is affecting my ability to even stand up in a class and ask a question. You know, my self-esteem is affected. I have girls and teenagers who walk up to me and say, teacher, I am feeling really shy, really embarrassed, you know. But when you look at all these things, they also need to understand why are they feeling that way. You see, all these things.
Some may think maybe I'm abnormal.
Yeah, yes.
I'm not okay.
And the other very delicate three sets of young people that I meet, and that when we are talking about sexual and reproductive health, we cannot do away with them. Young people living with HIV. You know, we have adolescents living with HIV. Some of them, it's through, you know, they got infected at birth, so they have grown being HIV positive.
They've had it.
They've had it all their life, but they've gotten to adolescence. Then we have these ones who got infected along the way, and they are here. Then we have schooling teenage moms. She had a child, she's come back to school, all right? Then we have a very delicate issue that every time we talk about, everyone goes like, you are talking about lesbians. We are talking about intersex children.
Who are still in the same bracket of teenage.
They are still teenagers. And to intersex children, I have met 4 in my career as a teacher. This is a child who, when they are born, you know, they're physically they look like a boy. And then as they get into adolescence, okay, they begin, their hips begin widening.
Yet physically they look male.
Physically when they were children. Now at adolescence, they began looking like, you know, girls. She has the genitals for a male, but outward representation, she looks like a girl. We have those ones who are, you know, the inward, she's a girl, but outward, she's a boy. Are you getting that confusion?
Yeah.
And you see, all these things happen at adolescence, at puberty.
And then you might wonder, how then do you go about it? Because if this is an intersex teenage who probably on the outside looks male, but inside they have the female organs, and they could even be experiencing menstrual cycle. So how do you go about, and this is a teenage, how do you teach them this reproductive? How do you start even the conversation?
Okay, that's a whole wide topic that we'll talk about later. But I just wanted to talk about how complex the whole issue of sexual and reproductive health
it's
is
really
for
a wide topic.
Yeah, and for adolescents. And especially this morning, even as we focus on teenage pregnancy again. When we talk about teenage pregnancy, the other thing we don't talk about are the unsafe abortions that happen. We lose girls every, day in, day out to unsafe abortions. We are losing girls to, maternal death. They were having the baby and then they die, okay? So, and we are talking about other issues that, that come with the whole adolescence. That's why when we began this, I told you, when we talk about adolescence, we are talking about age appropriate and need based.
Okay.
So we cannot afford, we cannot assume traditionally, the traditional way of looking at adolescent reproductive health in the past, we looked at them. Actually, if you look at the way we teach sexuality education in Kenya in most contexts, we come from an assumption that every teenager is abstaining.
Yeah, which is not quite the
They are
case.
abstaining. And that's why I said the church plays a very important role in molding our children in totality. But the but is, as a church, we focus a lot on hell, it's a sin and everything. And the other question I would like to ask our viewers this morning, we all know that sex out of marriage is a sin. But does that prevent us from taking that step when the opportunity arises, or within that, when this occurs?
Or when it happens, how do you go about it?
It doesn't, we know that sex is a sin. And if we keep telling our children, sex is a sin, and praying with them is good. Guiding them in the church way is good. But how have we empowered them to make an informed decision? When this time comes, they say when the rubber hits the road, are they able to make the right decision? Not out of fear, because today they will fear hell.
Yeah.
They get used to that after some time. They're like, I know it's a sin, but then the buts come. Because if we teach them, and how we teach also sexuality education most of the time is informed by fear. So now we know that teenage pregnancy is happening in the country.
Yeah.
So you find parents and everyone it's reactive. We are reacting.
So
and
even
then when
even as they're teaching, it's not like from the point of I want them to understand, is because this is what is happening.
Yeah.
So it's like more of how can we salvage?
Yeah,
the
like
situation?
nyinyi, unajua wasichana wanashika mimba sana. Wewe, jaribu, those kinds of things.
From
the
a point of
threats
fear again.
From a point of fear, sorry. When we come from a point of fear, we are not empowering our children to acquire. I said, we take them to a point where they acquire knowledge, information, so that they're able to develop the skills, the attitudes and beliefs that shape them beyond here. Because, and when we don't do right by adolescents, we again begin seeing this issue carried forward to when they go to college and university. So if we had someone from college and they will tell you that most of the issues that they face with young people at this upper level is because here at the adolescence level, we didn't empower them, we didn't empower them well.
With the right and proper information.
Right, yeah.
All right, and just for the benefit of our viewers, I'm still speaking to Anne Joyce, who is a curriculum specialist, our focus being on adolescent reproductive health and teenage pregnancies during COVID-19. Now, Anne, let's now come to the issue of teenage pregnancy. At least we have exhausted a bit of the adolescent reproductive health. Coming to teenage pregnancies, it has been there. But for some reason, you're just giving it so much focus during COVID-19. Could it be because the numbers are rising? And if so, what makes the numbers to rise so much during this pandemic?
When it comes to teenage pregnancy, all of us as a country, we always adopt a firefighting approach. Like, oh, there's a fire here. Bring water, bring buckets.
Let's try and save what we can save.
Let's try and save what we can save. Year in, year out. This is our conversation. We are always trying to save the situation, the situation, because the first nationwide approval was in 2018 for the first time, when we had all these girls sitting their national exams, and everyone was like, "What do you mean? What do you mean we have, And then when you look at the statistics, especially for that particular year, we had about 378,000 teenage pregnancies. The other day when we started talking about teenage pregnancy, and some of us were using the firefighting approach. Let's put it out. Other people were asking about the numbers. You see, that took the focus away from the issue on the table. The issue is even one teenage pregnancy is already too much for us as a country.
So we shouldn't wait for the numbers to rise for us to start talking about it.
Yes, and then like I would say, the Ministry of Education has invested a lot on sexual and reproductive health information. First of all, by even getting to a point where we have a policy that allows us to empower young people, then going further to curriculum development and having a whole area, the pertinent and contemporary issues in education, PCI, which was formerly known as life skills, committed to looking at these issues, the health of young people. Where do we fail our children? We fail our children at the point of availing this information. And I'll show you how. Many schools right now, it's the government that is buying textbooks, the subject area textbooks for young people in school. They have that. Many of the schools, even the peer books that are sitting right in front of me here, what the government has not been able to do, and it's because we understand that our resources as a country are strained, and so we need to prioritize. Education in this country happens on a shared basis, all right? Shared basis in the sense that the government gives its capitation for learners, for free education, and as a parent, you do your part, you pay up, right? The government is giving learners books on the subject areas. So it's up to parents and everyone else to also look at life skills.
Just keep going.
Life skills. How are we empowering our young people to get the right access to information on life skills? Again, I would ask board members of schools and principals and teachers in guidance and counseling departments again, how have we equipped our schools for this kind of information so that our young people have access to
information? Now, just on that thought of equipping and proper information, as you bring the conversation to a close, tell us about the books seated, in front of us this morning. What do they entail?
Oh, the peer books. These books talk about the sexual and reproductive health information.
So information again.
Yes, it's packed with all that information. These books are approved by the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. So they are in our schools. And even as we talk about COVID-19 and schools have been closed, you know, some of these books are in school libraries, sitting there waiting for learners.
To come back.
To come back. But now we have our learners here. And the other day I saw a lot of parents asking what books are there. So this morning I'm here to also say that as the Ministry of Education, as you know, educators and teachers in this country, we are doing our part to ensure that young people are equipped with this information. And like I said, it's packaged information. When you look at these books, we are not just talking about puberty and adolescence and the changes that come with it. We are talking about sexual and gender-based violence.
They are also in the book.
Yes, we are talking about rape. When rape happens, what should a young person do? These books also talk about HIV. Because I said when we look at adolescents, we are looking at adolescents in terms of prevention of HIV, for those who are not living with HIV, those who are living with HIV. We are talking about HIV care and treatment for them. And on top of that, we still, in this book, we still talk about school-related gender-based violence, where we talk about bullying and self-esteem issues. And so it's a whole package of information.
So all of these things are packaged inside the book.
Packaged
and you are the author
inside.
of this book.
I'm the author of this awesome book.
At least to have a guide for adolescents and for teenagers.
Yes, and this book is actually classified as a reference material. A reference material because it doesn't have Form 1 or Form 2, so it's used by adolescents between the ages of 13 to 19.
So even someone in primary, because 13 is someone who's in primary.
Yes, like we said. And the good thing about having a good curriculum material, like the peer, you are sure that it has been vetted.
Okay.
Yes,
Right.
and as we come to a close, when we talk about vetted by KICD, it's a rigorous process. I can tell you that these books spent close to 4 years.
So meaning it's at least good material for
It's
teenagers,
good material
and
for teenagers.
it can help them and guide them even as they go about this reproductive health, kind of learning.
Yes.
All right. So thank you very much, Joyce, for your time. We would have exhausted and talked more about the reproductive health.
I look forward to coming back again.
Exactly. But that has been Anne Joyce, a teacher, as well as a curriculum specialist on matters education and health. Our focus has just been on trying to understand adolescent reproductive health as well as teenage pregnancies during this COVID-19. But that is what brings us to a close this Monday morning on Good Morning Kenya. Stay safe, be good to one another. Join us again tomorrow for another edition of Good Morning Kenya. My name is Doreen Arange. Good morning.
On the next episode of Corner.
Why did you have to do it? Alafu umeshinda umenekea guilt.
Acha.
Mkoroga tubonge. Talk now.
Why is Ayira constantly visiting you? You better not be up to something stupid.
Justice will be served like hot tea.
Imagine my shock when I discovered that you are behind this pyramid scheme.
Needed to clear my head.
Every time something happens, you run here and hide.
On the next episode.
What's wrong, Julio?
Do you actually believe that I would feel like coming home after that scene that you made yesterday?
Where were you? Hana was speaking to someone very suspicious. She said that she's not going to give us the money from the insurance.
This is the very last time you run away.
It's clear that you don't care about my feelings. Like I'm not your daughter.
We're making a mistake. This is not an impulse. This is my wish. Can't you see it's a necessity for me? What interest do you have in that maid keeping all of that money?
I am Ramon, the son of Juana.
In love with Ramon.
the champions of English Premiership League in 2015, the favourites of Kenya top table tennis player Fai Daim, a sport that he could have ventured into, but it was not to be.
I used to play football, but the injuries were too many. That is why I stopped playing football and went to table tennis.
The Chelsea supporter thus ended up in ping pong to become the most celebrated player not only in Kenya but across the East Africa region as well.
I had it in me from school. It was during school time. In fact, I started being a player when I started playing inter-schools. I won 2 times inter-schools, then I became a Kenya Junior under 15, under 17, under 21, and then the men's.
And that's how he started his path to stardom.
I was in Area Boys. From there is when I picked the sport. In 1987, when I was in Form 4, I had already won 2 inter-schools. And in 1987, we were preparing for All Africa Games. That's when we were taken for China, training for a month to prepare for the All Africa Games, 1987. Then from there, I picked it up. I was number 2 when I left the country to go and represent the country. But when I came back, 1988 and 99, I was the current champion up to 207.
1991 was his most outstanding year when he lined up against the continent's best sons.
When I played in Africa Singles Cup in Tunisia, and I finished 7th in Africa. Those were the days that I could say I was going up.
Fai Daim also made his way to the Commonwealth Games, where he found the going tough despite giving his best shot.
In the year 2002 or 2003, when we went to Africa Singles Cup in South Africa, in fact, I was ranked number 1 in Africa Singles, and that really discouraged me so much because I lost in the first round as Africa to be ranked first and then to lose in the first round. So those were maybe the bad times, but I enjoyed all my time in table tennis. I have no regrets up to now.
He was unbeatable far too long and decided to give others a chance to break that cycle.
I've been a player for a very long time. I became the Kenya national champion in 1989. Up to 2007, I was unbeaten. So I decided to slow down and take it as a national team coach and at least bring up the players who are under me.
He has not rested on his laurels yet, but is proud to have many more others following in his footsteps.
It's the passion I have of this sport, and I'd like to see the people I've been training with to bring them up. I don't like the game to die off. That's why I coach 2 clubs, Ministry of Work Sports Club and Oshawa Sports Club. I have already brought 2 players from Ministry of Work Sports Club to be in the national team. That is Michael Otieno, he's number 3 in Kenya now, and Peter Theori, who is number 2 in Kenya. And I expect for them to qualify in the qualifications for the All Africa Games.
I appreciate what he has done for me because he has took me from underground to top ground. With table tennis, I've traveled like 2 times. Sometime last year I was in TZ for the Mapinduzi Cup, and then the same year I went to Commonwealth. So he has improved my skills.
Since I started playing, I've represented the country in various countries like Egypt, Congo. By then I was in primary school. And last year, January, we went to Zanzibar.
I can encourage most children and tell them more about table tennis because it has given me too much opportunities in my career. I was in Makini. I had a scholarship. I was in Botswana in 2013. I was representing Kenya. And last year I was in Glasgow.
Fai Daim is now the Secretary General of the Kenya Table Tennis Association, where they are trying to popularize and develop the sport all over the country in a bid to produce more champions.
We've got Eastern, we've got Northeastern, we've got Coastal, we've got Nyanza, we've got Kakamega, we've got Central, we've got Rift Valley, we've got Nairobi. So all these branches should bring in players automatically. They should not just expect Nairobi to bring, no. All the branches should work. They should not expect Kenya Table Tennis to work for them, no. It is the branches to bring in the players, and the Kenya Table Tennis Association will prepare the national trials and bring up those other players who qualify. Most of those players who are playing table tennis, they should always keep it up. It is a sport It is a sport that you enjoy playing. There is no injuries, and it is a sport that is played all over the country, all over the schools. Everywhere you'll find a table is a table tennis table. So most of people play table tennis, but they are scared of playing the tournaments. They should play tournaments because this is an individual sport. You win, you travel. You don't win, you don't travel. There is no hand picking. It is trials, qualify, and you travel. So it's the best sport for me, I think so.
They are not without challenges which they hope to overcome in the near future in order to realize good results.
For now, yeah, there are players who are good, but I know they have a lot to learn, and that they need a lot of exposure from international events so that they can reach my level. The trips that we are getting are very few. The sponsors are not there, and you can train as much as you want to train, but if you don't get the exposure, it's very difficult to perform outside.
Well, do not rule him out yet, for age is certainly but a number to Faid Daim, who's ruled the table tennis charts in Kenya for many decades to become synonymous with the sport.
It's all about discipline. I took the game very serious, and I was very disciplined, and I really loved the competition. I never liked losing. So I had to fight so hard, to train so hard to make it up in the team. So when I was in the team is when I had to, they say it's always hard. It is easier becoming number one, but staying number one is very hard. So I had to work double to make it in the top for the 17 years holding.
Hamjambo wa Kenya wenzangu, mimi ni prosecutor. Niko hapa kusisitiza maagizo ambayo tunapewa na Wizara ya Afya kuhusu ugonjwa wa coronavirus. Tunaambiwa pahali pana watu wengi lazima tuweke distance, yani kuweka hatua mita 1 kwa mwenzako. Ukienda kwa matatu, weka distance. Ukienda kwa soko ama palipopote mkusanyiko wa watu, ni vizuri uweze kupeana hiyo social distance ili tuweze kumaliza maambukizi. Tukifuata haya masharti ama maagizo ambayo tunapewa na Wizara ya Afya, hakika tutaangamiza corona virus na hali yetu ya kawaida tutairudia. Asanteni sana.
Say all kind of things about you.
We them on. Shake up. Need to mush you and done to mush you. When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy.
Trago ya la botella. Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bop in it.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Que te pago, mo, que te pago.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Pequeña katoto, camini pequeña, pequeña katoto.
Gear up and maintain a healthy, fit and active lifestyle right there at home by keeping up with Gear Up on Channel 1, 5:30 to 6 a.m. Monday to Saturday. Gear up every day for every moment, and remember to stay home and keep safe.
Embakasi Utawala tuko locked. Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive,
Jeshi ya Nyeri, Coast Maua na Kuru kwa locked mbaya.
Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1.
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the Rev.
Mbotela Outer Idara Kitengela.
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha.
Rongai Maboxer pale go down. Karatina Outer Mlolongo wana enjoy show. Lari Sub County Outer Githurai 45. Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake. Okongo Outer Carnation Maragwa Seti
Nairobi.
Fika wako locked mbaya sana.
Watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro.
Outer Gilgil.
Live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive.
Thika Massive.
Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County.
Kusia Boda Kisumu City. Malindi yote iko ndani ya the Rev.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
Calling out to
It's a different ball game. Online concerts, album releases, and virtual parties.
That's the new norm in the entertainment scene.
They say I'm drunk.
Grapevine exclusive.
Of course, being a beauty pageant, you have to first showcase your prowess in fashion and modeling.
A lot is going on, and it's happening fast.
Corona or no corona, hii mwaka lazima zote test.
We are on top of things to bring you up to speed to meet all your entertainment peacemakers.
Live in their bubble and be privy to what they're up to.
I could still feel the audience energy.
11 songs was not easy, but I'm happy we did it.
Let's rock and roll on Grapevine.
Every Monday at 10 p.m.
Hali imekuwa ngumu, hakuna pesa kila kona, kila mtu unamdai naye anasingizia corona.
Where is that traitor now? I want to kill him with my bare hands.
I have not done anything. Nothing.
Then why are you hiding here?
I'm a shepherd.
Akramak? He's the traitor we are looking for.
On the next episode.
What's wrong, Julio?
Do you actually believe that I would feel like coming home after that scene that you made yesterday?
Where were you? Hana was speaking to someone very suspicious. She said that she's not going to give us the money from the insurance.
This is the very last time you run away.
It's clear that you don't care about my feelings. Like I'm not your daughter.
We're making a mistake. This is not an impulse. This is my wish. Can't you see it's a necessity for me? What interest do you have in that maid keeping all of that money?
I am Ramon, the son of Juana.
In love with Ramon.
A very good morning to you. I am Daniel Wahome and welcome to News Check on KBC Channel 1. It is the first Monday of July and it's the year 2020 and everyone's in anticipation. What are the changes that President Uhuru Kenyatta could make to the restrictions of movement and other measures that were put in place to control the spread of the coronavirus? That's one of the key news items that everyone is focusing on today, because by tomorrow, that is when the last measure study days will be coming to a close, and everyone wants to know, are we going to still have restrictions of movement in Nairobi, the Nairobi metropolitan region, and also within Mombasa County? Will there be a change in the curfew hours? Could there be a reopening of the economy? Gatherings, what are the changes to be made, especially, for example, the places of worship, and a probable return to schooling for most of the young people of this country? Besides that, also remember that the Treasury and Planning Department will be giving an economic impact survey on households, and this is to be given by Ambassador Kuriatani, who is the Cabinet Secretary to the Treasury. That and more, let's first take a look at our reporter's diary. That is our reporter's diary, and our news team will be out in the field bringing you the stories as we also get more information from outside of the capital Nairobi, that's Mombasa, and also Kisumu, on how the country is moving on and fighting against the coronavirus. It is a Monday and our conversations revolve around sport. So much has been happening over the past 1 month. In the month of June, Athletics Kenya was involved in a food distribution campaign, to offer relief to athletes who have been affected by the cessation of sporting activities due to the coronavirus pandemic. And also, last week, the Confederation of African Football did make an announcement about competitions in Africa. More so, the Africa Women's Cup of Nations will not be played this year. And also, they mentioned that there's going to be a CAF Champions League for women. What else are we going to be talking about? The football that has been played over the weekend. That's over the next 2 hours as we also keep up with the news that's happening over the country. Our sign language interpreter this morning is Lensa Odingo. We start our conversations with athletics. For Kenyan athletes, they are a mainstay of the economy. There are towns in this country where if athletics was to be brought to a total halt, there would be a heavy economic impact, and some of the people who do that have had a relief from the from World Athletics, from the what is known as the World Athletics Foundation Fund that has always existed, about 193 athletes globally. But Athletics Kenya did distribute food to athletes all over the country. Over the weekend, they went out to the eastern part of the country. They were in Garissa, and Bernard Okumu filed this report.
I have just thought and said, very likely, as AK, we are likely going to ask the county government of Garissa to come up and try to have at least one perfect kind of running facility. That's a track. And this one at the Polytechnic, seeing it because we have gone round, we have seen that it requires just a little bit. It requires putting a little bit of money to just scrape the grass that is, and then bring a roller, water it, and then it becomes okay. But because the way it is right now, it cannot be used. So we are going to team up together with the AK regional office here, at the headquarters, and try to find out from the local government where this can be done.
First, we need to have more training of coaches, more facilities, and then one way or the other to encourage the athletics to take sports seriously, ensure the infrastructure are there, so that when you see you have got the good infrastructure, then people's mind will be changed where they will try these sports. So we are telling them, develop infrastructure, look for sponsorship. During the holidays, take the kids to a camp.
Only call upon the management or the officials of this region to talk to the young athletes who are women so that they can understand that the sport is not for men only. We have seen women make it in the other parts of the country, in the other parts of the world, and if other women from the other parts of the world, including even Asia, Europe, and even where the Muslim countries are, they are doing it and they make it and they earn money in athletics. I think even that's why we have come here to say, as Athletics Kenya, we encourage women from Northeastern to join the sport of athletics, and this is the only way we are able to move together. It is possible because we have seen it happen in other countries.
Poingia wakatawanyika because of the government directive, kusiwe na makundi wanakaa pamoja, ile wanaita social distance ikipiwe. Ndiye sasa wakaambiwa waende manyumbani, na wakiwa huko nyumbani sababu wao kwa camp, labda usaidizi wao sio kamili. Ndiye tutaonelea tuwachunguze, tuonelee kama ni kweli wanafanya practice wakati wako huko manyumbani ama iko namna gani, na ndiye tushauriane na wale wana handle them, sababu tuliambia makoches wawe wakivisiti hawa wanariadha waonelee ni shortcomings gani na wanatrain namna gani.
To come here and ensure that we give support to the athletes who are from this region. It is one of the regions of Athletics Kenya, and when we are planning for the World Under-20, we believe that it is possible to get an athlete with proper training. We did not come here as officials only, the management. We came with some coaches. And the reason why we did that is because we really want to be sure that there is potential in this area. And yes, we have confirmed. If we can get athletes from the Rift Valley, which is one of the regions, yes, we can also get some from here. So we have seen there is potential. We have seen that there is a future in Athletics Kenya, because as we continue dealing with the seniors, and these are the youth, there is a tomorrow for Athletics Kenya.
Sana kwanza kuona hawa watu wa athletics ili ambao wametusaidia na msaada hii kwa this pandemic. Nitakana tusaidie kutengeneza.
Angalia zile challenges zenye tunapata ni kuwa hatuna viwanja vya kutrain. Unapata mtu na zile boots, I mean zile spikes. So unapata penye tunatrainia kama venye mnavyoona viwanja viko na maram, viwanja vilifungwa kwa sababu kuna ugonjwa. So tunashukuru serikali kwa hiyo msaada wenye wametuletea.
Generation ambayo inakuja nataka tulete kitu kama Ahmed, kitu kama Mohamed, to replace Kipkumba, Kipchirchir, Kipnini. Sasa lazima tubadilishe.